Welcome back, Royally Quack fans. And your host for today is going to be the quacky boy, Cody Spink. Take it away, Cody.
All right. Thank you, Dad. I'm going to kick you for the rest until the very end. How about that?
Cool.
All right. All right, guys. Welcome, Ducks fans, to the Quacked edition of the Ducks Grades. We got Colby. He runs the Anaheim Ducks meme account, and he's the Cutter Gautier super fan. And right here on the bottom, we got Locked On Anaheim Ducks, Kyle Carr. And also we got Doug Stolan, the better half of the Puck podcast. Welcome, everyone. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Very good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Wishing we were in the off season. I mean, the postseason.
I hope you weren't wishing we were in the off season.
One of those words.
Soon, Kyle, soon. Mm-hmm. But all right, well, to start off, we're going to do Brett Leeson will be the first player we grade. Kyle, why don't you start with this? How would you give his grade for this season?
Brett Leeson was kind of an interesting case. I kind of try to grade off of what my expectations were based off their role and their place on the team. So I gave him a C. There wasn't too much out of him this year. I didn't see a lot of flashiness or like extremely good plays or anything, but he definitely wasn't a bad player for the team. He showed up when he had to. He did his role pretty well. There wasn't any crazy moments where it was like, wow, this player sucks. So I just, right down the middle, give him a C.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. You, Doug?
Well, I kind of graded based on their role compared to the entire league. So not within the team, but like if you had this player compared to the other players at his position and depth chart, how did he do? And I thought he was pretty good for his role as a depth forward. All you can really ask for as a bottom six is a lot of effort, a little bit of offensive bite here and there, and some little bit of physicality. And I thought he brought that as often as he could. He's not an ultra skilled player, but there was, you watch the Ducks, some nights you're wondering where the legs are. He seemed to always have energy. So I gave him a B. I thought he was pretty good for his role. And if everybody played like Brett Leeson and brought that energy every night, the Ducks would have probably had a better season.
Yeah. And you, Colby?
Along with Kyle, I gave him a C just because last season, or the season before this one, he put up 11 goals. This season, he put up 5. He's still solid in our bottom 6, but I would have liked to see a little bit more, but it is what it is.
No, I agree. I gave him a C as well. He started the season off really well. And I was very impressed because he just had that energy, and then all of a sudden it seemed like he just kind of disappeared towards the middle to the end. But Kyle, you did bring this up in one of your episodes where I think Leeson would be a good player to keep on the bottom 6 because I feel like he would be a great playoff piece for any team, or even for us. The way he plays, I think that, like that forecheck he does, I think that would be a good way to keep him and especially we already have him. He's used to our system, used to the players. I think he'd be a great playoff piece for us. So I'd give him a C as well.
Yeah, it's like Doug said, his energy was always really up there, and he played fairly physical. I think out of most of the bottom 6 guys, he was probably one of the tougher ones out there. And he does have the ability to angle guys off pretty well on the forecheck. So, maybe I'll give him a C+.
And here's what our fans graded him. We had 3 people give him an A, 13 give him a B, 35 give him a C, and I believe that says 15 for a D. So a lot of people agreed with us with the C. So that's good to know.
It's nice to know that Brett Leeson and at least 2 other members of his family took the poll. Gave him that A. My goodness.
His hometown.
An A from Brett Leeson with 17 points on the 4th line. Okay, then.
So, all right, next up we got
Someone has
Sam.
a Leeson jersey.
All right, next up we got Sam Colangelo. Doug, why don't you start us off on this one?
Tough not to like Sam and his game this past year. Again, one of those guys at the bottom. He was kind of the Chris Kreider of the bottom six, where if he's scoring, it's because he scored a goal. He doesn't pass it a lot, and certainly doesn't set people up. Only 2 assists in 32 games, but 10 goals in 32 games. Shooting percentage is a little tweaked, but when you're shooting over 24% on the season, probably not going to be sustainable. But for this season, you got to like what you saw out of Sam, and I gave him a B. Again, a bottom six guy. I'm not, for both him and Leeson, I'm not going to be upset if they moved on from him, but I'm okay if they upgrade that position. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not the ideal, but for what they were asked to do, they did it well. And in a short, hard to believe that if you protract that out or extract that out over an entire season, he would have been a 20 to 30 goal scorer potentially. That's bonkers, but
Yeah.
a B grade for me for Sam.
Yeah. How about you, Colby?
I gave him a B plus, kind of around the same reasons. I mean, for me personally, he was a surprise package. He played 32 games for us this season, scored 10 goals. Like Doug was saying, he's about on pace for a 25 goal pace. He got the nickname Goal Angelo. It's pretty sweet. I mean, for normal, casual Ducks fans, like, you can't not love a player like that. He did good. He's still young, but we'll see what he grows into and if we keep him.
Yeah. I agree with both of you. I like that he is one of the players that actually went in front of the goalie. He would set screens. He would tip the pucks. We were missing that before he got there. So I also gave him a B as well. Like I said, I liked his game. He competed out there. He looked great. He looked comfortable, especially when it was at the Mac and C's line that we had for a little bit. So where he was scoring almost a goal a game when we had that line, it seemed like. So yeah, I gave him a B as well. What about you, Kyle?
You basically just said everything I was going to say, but I also gave him a B. I do like his nut from presence. I think that's one thing that I really harped on the Ducks this year is there was a lot of stagnant plays for a lot of the season where they were just kind of keeping it around the perimeter and not really moving their feet, but more just moving the puck around to each other, and nothing was coming. I think his first 4 goals of the season were all deflections or somehow went off of him into the net because he was in the right spot at the right time. And I think the Ducks need a little bit more of that. They need a little more of that Corey Perry wormage where they just find themselves right there in the mixer. So I give him a B.
Yeah. And here's what our fans graded him. We had 22 give him an A, 34 a B, and 10 a C. So pretty much what we all said. So
I don't know what those 10 people were expecting to give him a C. Guy plays 32 games, has 10 goals, gives everything, all effort, and C.
And he was the Goals AHL All-Star representative as well.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that.
I think that's a guy that they could potentially, and we'll see what Coach Q does this coming season. But if he's still on the team, that's a guy you can flex up and down the lineup to put in with to exactly what Kyle was saying. If you need net front presence on a line with Zegras, that's a guy that can definitely give you that and set the screens, cause the traffic to create some lanes for Zegras to create some offense.
So are you telling me he's a future Corey Perry?
No.
Like someone but he's someone that you could play on the 4th line and on the top line. Like
Corey Perry. Now he is.
Now,
but
you're
saying Corey Perry today.
Now. Yeah, today.
Okay, yeah. Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think he's got. There was a player in the past that I'm kind of thinking of, maybe a Mike LeClaire kind of guy that can move in there and give you some quality minutes. You don't want him there for 82 games, but for a few games, moving up to the top line or top 6, it's possible. And Sam has potential. Like you said, he's young. If everybody again gives the effort that Leeson and Colangelo gave, the Ducks are going to be in a great spot next year.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Frank the Tank Vetrano. Colby, why don't you start us off on this one?
So I gave Frank a B plus. I thought it was a classic Frank season. He scored 21 goals. He added grit to the team. Granted, he did have like 80 penalty minutes. So at what cost did that grit come?
80
But-
penalties or 80 minutes? I feel like it could be either way.
Yeah,
Probably.
he was streaky through the season and didn't drive too much of the play, but for the most part, I thought he was pretty solid.
Okay. Yeah. I gave him a B, like a B minus. I felt like his season could have been a little bit better. I felt like his shooting was a little off this season. I do like the little like Brad Marchand light of him, being that annoying person on the ice and just causing chaos. But at the same time, when we need you to be a shooter, not a menace, sometimes that kind of and put us in a lot of penalty trouble, penalty kill trouble and everything. So that's why I gave him the minus, because of that. So what about you, Kyle?
I gave him, so I was kind of teetering with Frank on a B plus, A minus range. I appreciated the pit bull that he was this year. I'm pretty sure he had the second highest hit count on the team next to Gudis, and he's a shorter guy. So being a shorter guy myself, I gotta give my love to those guys. But I think he did pretty well. He got stuck with that Vetrano, Strome, Terry line, which I don't know if y'all noticed. They were the only three that went to Coach Quenneville's intro. So even in the off season, they're still together. But
you didn't know they're all on vacation together too. You didn't know that?
Yeah, I think they're the dads. That's why they all got the youngins, so they're just hanging out, golfing together, and taking the kids to lunch. But yeah, I felt like there could have been more. It's hard to replicate the season he had last year, but when you sign a contract, there's always kind of like a mellow out calmness, I think, that happens where you kind of just are there and life's happening. You just got this long contract, so I expect a lot more out of him next year. But yeah, just like I'd put a B plus, A minus. Like if he does the extra credit, maybe he'll get the A minus.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Doug?
Well, this will be the first one where I differ wildly from you guys. I had him as a C minus until I was kind of like, I'll give him a C based on he certainly gave all the effort. You can't question Frank's effort or hustle on a given night. And honestly, the move from C minus to C was because he re-signed with the Ducks before they got rid of Coach Cronin. So he was still willing to stay here. He was potentially a deadline move, but he was willing to stay in Anaheim despite not knowing what how bright the future would be. But this season, there's no way to look at this and not say it's a disappointment. His goals dropped from 37 to 21. The power play is why I gave him the C, though. We need Frank Vetrano to be productive on the power play, and he simply wasn't. 3 goals and 5 points the entire season on the power play is just ridiculously bad from him. The good news is next year, I'm not a betting man, and I don't encourage sports betting because I find it to be corrosive and addictive. But if you were to place a bet, I think next year is going to be a fantastic year from Frank, and I base that on history. If you go back and look at his shooting percentage, it alternates every other year with strong years. So last year he shot 9%. The year before, 13.6, and he had 37 goals. The year before that was a year like this, 9.5%. The year before that, 14.3%. So every other year, he has a really strong goal-scoring year and a productive shooting year. Last year was his down year. Next year is going to be the good year for Frank, and I expect that to reflect in his power play minutes and his overall production. But you got to get from that guy on this team, you need more than 21 goals and 45 points, and you certainly need more than 3 power play goals.
100% agree with you.
Was he on the Coach Q Florida Panthers?
Yes,
he was. He's
okay.
the I think the only player that has played for Q before. Maybe somebody else has, but yeah.
I think Gudis.
I think Gudis too.
Oh, Gudis. Okay, so yeah, those two. But no, Frank is. It's hard not to like him because of the effort he gives every night, and he's kind of that Swiss Army knife that can, like Kyle said, he's a physical player and he can score goals. He can do it all in one shift, but we're counting on him to be a 30-goal, 60-point guy every year, and he fell way short of that this past season.
That's a great point, Doug. I actually agree with you on that. All right. Here's what our fans said about Frank Petrano. 10 people gave him an A, 35 a B, 18 C, and 3 people gave him a D.
Ooh, tough graders right there.
Yeah.
It's probably Coach Cronin.
No, he liked him because he kept him on the line with Terry the whole year. So, all right. Next up, we got Brock McGinn. Just because I'm looking at the notes, Kyle, I want you to go first because I'm kind of curious on your grade on this.
Well, like, you remember in college when you had a class that you just knew you were not going to really give a you know what about, and you
Mhm.
could request to make it a pass, no pass?
Yeah.
That's what I think with just because of his kind of shortened season with the injury, I'm giving him a passing grade. And, he didn't, he didn't fail, but I feel like there wasn't really much to grade him on with the sample size that we got out of him.
No, I agree. I gave him a B just because I liked his energy that he brought on the ice. Like I felt like every time he was in he was always on the forecheck. He was making great defensive plays. We're not paying him to score goals. We're not paying him to be on the power play or anything. He's there on the fourth line to bring energy, to forecheck, and just to make sure that that we're not losing during that time of the game. And I felt like he brought that. I mean, some of his line mates, we'll talk one of them about next, who I do not really. I hope he's off the team next year, but I liked McGinn's game, and if they brought him back on like a cheap deal and stay on the fourth line, I wouldn't hate it. So, how about you, Doug?
Brock McGinn is a guy that I really hoped would be a factor this past season coming into the year because I know what he can bring when he's healthy, but the guy just cannot stay healthy, unfortunately. In 3 years with the Ducks, he played a total of 65 games. So, I mean, we're not even getting one full season out of a guy in 3 years. So when he was out there, he did his role well. But I have no patience. The old saying is your best ability is your availability. This guy can't answer the bell to play enough games. And so you can't optimistically think, well, now that he's going into his 30s, I'm sure he'll have better health. I think you got to cut bait with him. But I gave him a C just because he was fine while he was there. But you got to be available more than 20, 25 games a year.
Yep. All right. How about you, Colby?
I gave him a C plus, which may be a little generous, but if I remember correctly, towards the beginning of the season when he was actually healthy, because he got injured in December, so he didn't play. He only played 26 games, which sucks. But if I'm remembering correctly, that bottom line he was on was the one that was producing for us a lot in the beginning of the season, which got me hyped. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be our year for Brock. Like, this is it. It was not. But like Kyle was saying, I'm kind of just letting it pass because he didn't play a whole lot. Do I necessarily want him to come back? No. Would I be sad if he did? Also, no. So I'm 50-50 with Brock and everything about him.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of Andre Kasha.
Oh yeah.
Like
Kasha
where
had
he'd have
more
his,
offense. He was more offensive upsided. McGinn
But he was
more
injury prone so much.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, oh, finally Kasha's showing up, and then you're like, oh well, he looked the wrong way. Now he's hurt.
yeah. And I think this is the year. And Kyle, you're talking about this a lot on Locked On Anaheim Ducks. So, but this is the off season where the Ducks can't, to Colby's point, they can't just keep bringing the same guys back and hope it's better. We have to upgrade players. And we're not saying anything's bad about Brock McGinn. We're not upset at him. But if you're not available to play and you're not going to be a constant productor for the team, we need to upgrade that position. And that's a guy, him and Colangelo and Leeson, I'm willing to give Colangelo a spot, not guaranteed, but in camp because he's so young and has so much potential. But guys like Leeson and McGinn, that's exactly the spots we need to upgrade. And I know Cody said the next guy he wants to get rid of. On my list, next guy is Troy Terry. That's shocking that we would. No,
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh God.
But the next guy we're going to talk about is exactly to that point. We have to start upgrading these positions. And Brock McGinn, I would be sad if they brought him back, because that means we didn't have a productive offseason, and we're going to try the same roster again and hope for different results.
That's actually a good point, Doug. I like that. All right. Here's what our let me switch it. Brock McGinn. There we go. We had 5 people give him a B, 26 give him a C, 28 a D, and 7 an F. Some harsh people there too. And our next
F is, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we got some Fs coming up, I'm sure, but
yeah. Well,
my goodness.
Well, this next person is not Troy Terry. It is Ross Johnston. Okay, thank you, Doug. I'm gonna start on this one. I'll give him a D minus just because I like when he fights, but that's the only reason he's not getting an F. I just feel like whenever he's on the ice, he's getting into issues that don't need to happen. Like, I think we had a power play coming up, and then he did something stupid, then boom, it's 4-on-4. And and I just feel like the nickname I give him, he's the human traffic cone on the ice, especially with the jerseys now. So I'm not a fan of him. I didn't even like him when we picked him up on waivers. And I was like, it feels like a 1-year thing. I was like, okay, cool. We'll deal with him for 1 season. But no, this will be almost year 3. And he only has 1 or 2 goals for us the whole time. Like, I know he's not a goal scorer, but at least Delorier scored and he was entertaining on the ice. But Johnston I don't know what he does. He just causes, things to happen and puts us in a bind because of his stupid antics that he does out there. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, I originally wrote down D, but just thinking about it, I think I want to lower it down to an F because, like you said, I don't feel like he knows how to play that role. Like, he's a snap show at times, but not at the right times. It's really hard to compare when you had a player like Nick Delorier as our kind of enforcer, protector type player. And I just don't think he would ever do it at the right times, or he'd be put in the lineup to be some grit, and then he wouldn't even show up. I don't think he'd even register a hit. So he just was so off and on, and he just didn't seem to really get his role or get what he was supposed to do. And you look at guys like Evander Kane, who can be the tough guy and also be up on the top line and score goals. We need someone that's got that grit, but also can put a puck in the net or at least making a pass that's tape to tape.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Colby?
I was a little generous when I graded it. I probably wasn't in the best headspace doing it. I won't say what I gave him. I wanted to give him a little bit extra, but he really did absolutely nothing for me this season, which I'm sure most Ducks fans feel the same way about. Granted, he had a couple fights where he stood up for players, like when Leo got injured, he took down Ty from the Kraken, which yeah, good for him. But like Kyle said, every other time he tried that, it's why are you doing this right now? There's no reason at this point in the game for you to target a player like that.
Yeah.
And he had 1 goal this season, 1 goal last season, and that's it. It's is that really the bottom left winger that we want?
The Sam Steele effect, where he just scores the same amount of goals every season.
Yeah. So I'll give him a D. Okay. That's still me being generous, because I could flat out give him an F and say, never want to see you again. Granted,
it's okay. Say it.
I still never want to see him again. But
he just opens your door. What?
Yeah. I hope he doesn't see this, because if I ever see him in public, I will be running for my life.
Yeah. How about you, Doug?
Well, I got a D on him because, there's nothing to like about his game. The guy, when he was on the ice, it was rare that good things happened for the Ducks. He played over the 2 seasons I guesstimated based on his average ice time and number of games played that he played around 900 minutes for the Ducks. And with his penalties, he had 378 penalty minutes.
Oh my
So
gosh.
when almost 40% of your total ice time is represented by penalty minutes, come on, man, you're killing us. And he was brought in specifically because he was a Greg Cronin guy, and they worked together with the Islanders when Greg was an assistant coach. So he was brought in to be the coach on the bench and in the locker room and on the ice. And I think that was an example of it. Cronin did not have a lot of success in Anaheim, and the guy he brought in to be his representation on the bench and on the ice did not have a lot of success. So I will be upset if Johnston is still on this team next year. He does not serve a role anymore. That era of hockey is long gone, and I'd be surprised if he's even in the NHL. I can't imagine any team saw him and thought that's a guy we need to add. He's certainly not a guy that should be playing more than half the games. So it's a D for me because you can't blame his effort. He at least went out there and gave everything he had, but there's no skill there. And there's just nothing, best case scenario is he leaves the ice, the score's the same as it was. That's not a player you want to keep around.
Yeah.
Would you be upset if he was down at the goals, or would you want him off
Yes.
Anaheim's?
I don't ever want to see him again. Good for you. Enjoy your good luck in life. I don't wish you any poor luck or fortune, but I never want to see him play for the Ducks or Goals again, because if he's in San Diego, the potential is that he could get called up, and I don't want that to even be an option.
Well, he does have a year left on his contract, but I hear buyout coming. I'm hoping.
I mean, I think I think Tulsa needs the ECHL is calling.
Yeah.
Send him down as a player coach.
Yeah,
He'll fit in perfectly in the ECHL.
100%, 100%, and he'd play top 6 minutes. Really show out.
If that.
He'll probably be there to lead scorer.
Yeah.
And here's what our fans said about Ross Johnston. 2 people gave him an A.
Oh
that must have been his parents.
Literally.
9 people gave him a B, 12 a C, 28 a D, and 15 an F. At least I know Ross Johnston's parents listen to our podcast. That's
Hey,
nice
there
to
you go.
I mean,
Or his brother and
that's
sister or
shocking.
something.
That's
Yeah,
people that just love fights.
Yeah.
That love the goons, the old, they'd give Jared Burnett an A, but I mean,
Yeah. So
wow.
our next person is now Troy Terry. Doug, why don't you start us off on this one?
Yeah, since you don't want him here.
Yeah, I mean, Troy's a guy that again he ended up leading the Ducks in scoring this year with 55 points. So you got to give him that. But I gave him a B+ overall. There's more in his game. Obviously, this is a guy that can potentially score 30+ goals. He did it a few years ago. That was an extreme case of production. His shooting percentage was out of sight that year. But so I think he's consistently going to be a 20 to 25 goal scorer, and that's where he fell this year. But again, he's not a young player anymore. We still consider him one of those young guys, but he's firmly a veteran entering the late years of his prime. And for that kind of role on this team, you need to be more productive, certainly on the power play. We did not see much from him, enough, I should say, on the power play. So I'd like to see more from him in special teams. But he's still one of the better players, one of the better forwards, and a B+ for me for Troy.
Yeah. How about you, Colby?
I gave him an A. I'm a big fan of Troy. I always have been. He led the team with points, like Doug was saying. He wasn't flashy every night, but he quietly delivered that offense with his top line minutes. Granted, it makes me wonder if, like Doug was saying, if he could crack that 30 goal score, if he was on a different line. I feel like the Terry, Vetrano, Strome line needs to be broken up just because I feel like it's holding back Troy from his full potential. And I feel like he can be so much more, but you've got guys like Strome that are just weighing him down. And we'll get to that when it comes to Strome. But That's just how I feel. I really like Troy, and I think he delivered solidly, kind of just baseline. I would have loved to see a lot more from him, but I think in the future, hopefully we can.
Yeah, he definitely needs new line mates for sure. How about you, Kyle?
I also gave him just a solid A. I've been talking about him all season. I think he's the best like 200-foot forward that the Ducks have, and he's one of those players that he shows up in the columns that you don't see on the score sheet. He does all the little things right, like very elementary basics, and one of the quotes we always say in the Marine Corps is brilliance in the basics, and that's Troy Terry. Like, he just does all those little things right. His forecheck is phenomenal. His ability to pick the pocket, his ability to back check, like, he just does all these things. And like you said, I think the line mates just need to change. He needs to be put up with some more skilled guys than that can support him and be there. And I think Quenneville's definitely going to unlock something out of him this year. I just want to see him take off, because I feel like he's not this is not like a skill level comparison, but like a mentality, approach to the game mentality comparison. I see a lot of like Nathan McKinnon in him, where he just shows up and does his business, and he's just got that dog in him, and every single game, whether the Ducks are down or ahead, like, he's always just working hard. Every shift he's out there, he's the hardest working guy. So he's someone that I really want to see explode with the new coaching staff. And I could see him capping 30, maybe even getting up to the 40 if he has the right setup.
Yeah. You guys pretty much said everything I was going to say, so I'm going to just give you my grade, and we're gonna keep this moving. I also gave him an A too. So you guys all said exactly what I wanted to say.
I will ask this though: if for some reason Radko Gudas is not on the Ducks next season, is Troy Terry a guy you would like to see be the captain?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's
him or McTavish are my two.
You mentioned McKinnon, and let's keep it to the Ducks, of guys that I remember well from the Ducks. He reminds me of a Chris Kunitz. He reminds me of a Steve Ruchin in the hardworking, productive player in the top six that does exactly what you're talking about, all the little things right. And we're going to get to the coaching staff later, but almost every guy we're talking about, I think, was held back by the coaching staff and will be more productive once this coaching staff is gone and the new coaching staff has taken effect. So I look at every single guy we're talking about, with very rare exception, as being somebody that I expect to see more of in the future and being put in a better position to succeed. So, and Troy Terry is definitely among them, a guy that had back-to-back 60-point seasons. Cronin comes in, doesn't get 60 points in either year. I think we're going to see a better production from him next year.
Well, that was exactly the same way with Zegers too. He had
Correct.
back 60 points, and Cronin comes in, doesn't
right. It's going to be a recurring theme for a lot of these guys.
Yeah. So for Troy Terry, we had 28 people give him an A, 25 people gave him a B, 11 C, and I don't know who the 2 people gave him a D.
Oh, dang.
Those are the same 2 people that gave Ross Johnston an A. You got Kings fans voting in this thing, Cody.
Yeah.
That's all right. I voted in them, and I gave everyone an F. No, I'm just kidding. But no, if Terry isn't the captain, then it's probably going to be another person that we'll probably talk later. The next person I have up is Jansen Harkins. Colby, why don't you start us off on this one?
I gave him straight F.
Wow.
That may be mean, but me personally, he played over 60 games. He only had 6 points, and he had the worst plus-minus on our team, which I know a lot of people say plus-minus is like the worst stat to grade a player on. But for one of our centers, he played the majority of the season with us, and he was that bad. He didn't really do good in his role. Me personally, I wasn't attached to him. I'd be fine if he was gone.
Wow. Tell me how you really feel, Colby.
I know it's a harsh one, but
yeah.
All right, Cody, let's bring in Jansen and he can respond.
Yeah.
I know he's been
Just
waiting in the
actually waiting
wings.
behind. For you.
Yeah, open that door behind him, Jansen.
And door behind number 2 is
Ducks
Doug.
bottom 6 are gonna have words with Colby later.
I know,
For real.
seriously. Maybe we should just mute, just get rid of your video so they don't know what you look like now. All right, Doug, how would you grade Harkins?
I gave him a C-. I am not as, I guess, kind of because I didn't expect much from him. So it's hard to be disappointed when you don't expect much. And if anything, he was at least one of the very few players on the Ducks that won more than half his faceoffs. So if he did take a faceoff, at least we had a chance to win it for once. So there was that. But yeah, he's a guy that is absolutely replaceable in that bottom 6. And if he's back again, it means we had a very bad offseason. The entire bottom 6, with I think one exception. I think Kyle and I will disagree on that one coming up. But I think the entire bottom 6, with one guy exception, needs to be changed next season.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, how about you?
I also gave him a C-. I did like some of the stuff that he did do towards the end of the season. I thought that he was honestly a little bit more of a better role player than Ross Johnson was. I felt like towards the end there, like he wasn't the most reliable, but he also wasn't like a detriment to the team. So yeah, just kind of not really much to say about him, but he did have some decent play being down there in the bottom 6. And it was basically him and Johnson that would rotate out. And I felt like I liked the Ducks better when Harkins was in than when Johnston was.
Yeah, agreed. That's why I was shocked that Colby gave him an F instead of Johnston.
I know. I changed my Johnston grade.
He's the one who gave him an A on the poll.
You're the one that gave him an A. I gave Harkins a C because he's kind of exactly what I thought he would like. He started in the AHL. He wasn't meant to be up here with us, but we had a couple injuries, and like you said, he was when he was in the faceoff. I was like, okay, we may win a faceoff, but when everyone else was in I was like, if McTavish wasn't getting kicked out, then he pretty much won it. But I've never seen anyone get kicked out of a faceoff circle more than McTavish. But we'll get to that later. But with Harkins, like he played he did what I thought decently on the penalty kill, and like I said, at least I know when he was in the faceoff for the penalty kill, I was like, okay, we have a chance to at least waste at least 10 to 15 seconds of the kill. So, but I would say a C because he's kind of what I expected. Even though he had the worst plus minus, which he won the Masters on our award show for the best minus, but yeah. Let's see. What did we have for Harkins? Here we go. Harkins got 2 A's, 12 B's, 33 C's, 13 D's, and 6 F's. Wow, I guess our bottom 6 forwards really like our podcast for some reason because they're the ones that are giving A's to these players.
Man, I
They
don't
gotta
know.
get that recognition.
Yeah, I don't know what games they were watching from that bottom 6 this year. But
It was when Harkins had an actual point in the season. Like, oh, he deserves an A.
yeah, my goodness. If that's A plus or A work from your bottom 6, then I don't know if they've watching the playoffs right now, but that is
They must
A
be goals
work from the
fans.
bottom
Yeah.
6.
He had a couple fights, didn't he? That could be it.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does Ryan Strome and Harkins kind of look alike too? I got confused quite a bit.
Racist.
Oh yeah. Next up, we got Isaac Lundestrom. Is this the one that you were talking about, Doug, with disagreement?
Yes, because if I am interpreting his show correctly, Kyle would like to drive him to the airport and make sure he's never in Anaheim again. And I look at Isaac as a guy that was really held back by Cronin, did not mesh with his system at all. And I would love to see if he can rediscover the potential we saw before Cronin came to town under Coach Q, because I think he has the potential to be a Sammy Paulson type, where he goes out there and embrace being a shutdown center or forward, and don't worry about the offense. Just focus on your defense, your positioning, and being a pain to play against. Sammy Paulson was not a big man. Neither is Isaac Lundestrom. They're roughly the same size, both Northern European players. I think if you show him videos of Paulson and how he evolved his game and became an elite third line center, I would love to see if he has that in him. And I'm willing to give him one more season with Coach Q to see if he can discover that in his game. And if not, then you move on. But as we see, you mentioned Sam Steele, as we see around the league, there's a lot of guys that the Ducks gave up on. Stefan Nason is another one that it's like, I would love to have those guys back now because we gave up on them too quick, So Nick Ritchie, I don't want him back. Yeah. But Sam Steele and
what?
Yeah, exactly. If we do, we can get him. I can tell you that. But those guys I would love to have back because that's the role we need them to play. That's the bottom six we need. And I'm curious to see if Lundestrom has that in his game. I'm willing to give him one more season. So I gave him a C- because I didn't like his game last year. But I think that had more to do with how he was positioned and what he was asked to do by the coaching staff than his actual lack of ability.
Yeah. Kyle?
So yeah, I have I'm like hot and cold with Isaac Lundestrom, and Doug, you're gonna have to listen to my latest episode because I talk about. I feel like we're the good luck, like that movie Good Luck Chuck, where he like dates a girl and then the next person is their husband or whatever. We're the Good Luck Ducks because pretty much everyone we get rid of ends up having a deep playoff run. But I gave Isaac Lundestrom a D. He was supposed to be like his role is supposed to be this reliable shutdown center, and he had one of the worst plus minuses on the team. And I just felt like he was getting bullied off the puck a lot. And the picture I used for him on my thumbnail was him just getting completely lifted off of his feet, trying to cover in front of the net against Vancouver. I think that he definitely needs to bulk up and get a little bit more physical if he does stay with the team. And there needs to be a big talk with him. Like you need to like hit the gym and you need to be a lot more of a physical bite, especially if we're going to try to be making it in the playoffs. Cause I just look at this Edmonton, Florida series right now. And I am pretty sure Isaac Lundestrom would have been injured the first game. So I would like to see a little bit more out of him. There is potential there. He got 4 points at the Worlds a few weeks ago. So there is that spark there. And I hope that if he does stay, that Q can get it out of him.
Yeah. You mentioned him getting hurt in the game one. Brock McGinn would have injured himself in warmups. So at least he makes it onto the ice.
Just skates in front of the puck, gets nailed.
I gave Lundestrom a C. Just like I said, he did kind of like what I expected him to do. Like it didn't really. Like I said, I agree with Doug. It also was how he was coached at the same time. So, like I said, I felt like he was just a C because, like I said, you don't expect him to put up offensive numbers. He's never been an offensive guy. So that's why I gave him a C as well. Colby, how about you?
I gave him a D. I'm kind of in the middle ground between Kyle and Doug, where I'm not driving him to the airport just yet, but I'm not welcoming him with open arms to come back to the team.
You have the Uber set up just in case.
I have the Uber app downloaded. I'm waiting to set up the trip. But if he comes back, like Kyle was saying, I want him to bulk up. I want him to just be the best version of himself that he can be. But he's also one that I'm like, let's ship off and let's get someone else that can fill that spot and just be a little better for us to have that final step in the playoff push.
Ideally, he's the healthy scratch next season. You know what I mean? Like a guy that can rotate in and out of the lineup, can play all three forward positions if you need him to step in, and can give you can play an entire season in the bottom six if you need him to. But rather than the guys we did have coming in and out of the lineup, like Harkins and Johnston. I would love to have it be a Lundestrom because that means the bottom six are that much healthier.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I also
Right.
think like the big thing I've been harping that I could see him being a trade piece after he's an RFA, because he is an RFA right now. So if he does get signed, I see him being the most like shoppable of the bottom six that the Ducks have. Like I think the Ducks could get more than just a bag of pucks in return out of all of the other bottom six players that we have. So that's kind of why I've also been saying that it's like at least you can get something in return, because I think teams would like someone like Isaac Lundestrom, because I do have a like of him. I think he's kind of one of those guys that could maybe use different scenery.
Yeah. Here's what our fans said about Lundstrom. One person gave him an A, 10 people gave him a B, 41 a C, and 14 a D. So pretty close to what we had, except for the one person that gave him an A. So next up, we got Robbie Fabry. Colby, why don't you start us off on this one?
You know, I thought for the most part, he played his role good. He's 1 year contract with us. Granted, he didn't stay healthy with us for the season, and he only put up 16 in 44 games, which isn't ideal. I don't want him back. That being said, I think we can move on and find a better player to fill that spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 50-50 just because for the most part he was decent, but I don't know. I'm not sold on him, so I don't really have anything too positive to say about him.
Kyle?
I give him just a solid C. I definitely was expecting. He was pretty much brought over to Anaheim to be like the goal scorer for us, and he did not really fill up to that task. Okay, Harley Davidson outside. So they just I didn't see a lot of what we were supposed to be getting out of him. Like his time in Minnesota, I think we were expecting a lot, and then he comes over here and it was kind of stale. A lot of the team was stale at the beginning of the year, so it's hard to fault him on that, but just it never really got together, and then he broke his hand, so not really much there to write home about.
All right, how about you, Doug?
To Kyle's point, the beginning of the season, the first half of the season was awful for the Ducks offensively. Everybody was sluggish out of the gates, and a lot of the grades that I had, I tried to remember that after the Four Nations face-off, the Ducks offense got so much better and started playing so much better that I didn't want to use the recency bias of the end of the season to cloud the entire season. For Robbie Fabry, you don't have that problem because he didn't play after the Four Nations face-off. So, but I also look at that first part of the season as being kind of an unfair evaluation because the team was so bad offensively during that time. He didn't get enough power play time for the skill that he had. I look at him, I think he's going to go into the same folder that Danton Heinen is in for the Ducks, of a guy that I remember being there. I don't remember a single thing he did. He had some potential, but it was never realized. And then it's just kind of like, and he's gone. And I don't expect him to be back. But while he was here, I had some optimistic hopes for him. I give him a B-. The effort was there. The shooting percentage was there. He was over 12% shooting percentage. So if he had played an entire game and certainly was on this team when the team got hot, I think he would have been a 20-goal scorer, which is what I expected out of him. So I gave him a B-. It was just bad luck that he got injured again. Anybody that has had him on their roster in the past would say no surprise that he got injured. It's like Jamie Drysdale. So, there's some players that just have bad injury luck, and he's one of them.
Oh, the Danton Heinen call out. That was so on point, Doug. That was hilarious. I totally forgot. Like, I probably would have forgot he was even a Duck until you said, "Oh, remember he was on the Duck." I'm like, "Oh, right, he was."
Yeah, there's a lot. I do the puck doku a lot, and there's a lot of the former Ducks. You ain't kidding about good luck Ducks, man.
Yeah.
The number of Ducks that go on to be great with other teams, then you're like, why did we even get rid of that guy? This guy is amazing. And then you remember, because he wasn't doing any of this in Anaheim.
Nope.
So, that's going to change, though, starting next season. I am
hanging out at Baja Sharkies too much.
Yeah. I gave Fabry I would say a C minus. Like I said, he was there. He looked good while he was, during certain parts, but like if he didn't come back, I wouldn't, I wouldn't hate it. So, but yeah, here is what our fans said about Fabry. We had two people
Oof.
give him an A, 11 a B, 28 a C, 18 a D, and 7 an F.
Dang.
Yeah.
Disgruntled fans.
Yeah. So next up, we got Nikita Nestorenko. I'm gonna start on this one real quick. I liked the way he played when he got called up. Like he was also like he just brought that nice young energy that we've all been kind of like what we saw with Colangelo, just probably with less goals. But like he was doing work while he was up there. So and he looked good with during certain parts of the when there was that one line he was on where he just you could tell like he looked like he should have been there the whole season. So I gave him a B, just a B minus, just because he did a little bit more than what I expected when he got called up. So, Doug,
I gave him a C just because he didn't play enough for me to have a strong impression of him either way. I liked what I saw from him, but it's an incomplete when you're not in there every day. I hope that he gets a chance to play. I think it's going to be a very competitive camp next season, which has not been the case in recent years. I think the jobs have pretty much been guaranteed. But if Pat Verbeek does his job this summer, the camp should be very competitive for roster spots. And Nikita's a guy that I hope gets a legitimate shot to win a job out of camp, because if he can show consistency at what he did while he was in the lineup, this is a guy that could potentially be a great addition to the bottom six with speed, some offensive bite. And as long as you're defensively responsible, I see no reason not to keep that guy in the lineup. Unlike a lot of the bottom six, he stayed out of the penalty box, so at least he's not putting us shorthanded. And with his speed and scoring touch, I could see him being a guy that almost an Andrew Ebbett. I'll keep bringing back the former Ducks. He was a guy that I said had NHL legs and AHL hands, and Nestorenko showed he's got to have that. He's got to keep that scoring touch going, because if he can do that, he's going to always have a role in the NHL.
Yeah. Colby?
I gave him a C. I'm just in the middle ground with him. He didn't play a whole lot of games for us. I do hope he gets another chance to really prove, because I think he has a lot of potential and he can really be someone for our bottom six. I mean, it's a plus for me. He's scored 6 goals. 4 of them have been on Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So that's a win for me.
Oh, all right, Kyle.
Well, as someone that was living out in Boston during the 2019 Stanley Cup run, I absolutely hate Jordan Binnington. So yes, Nikita Nestorenko, I give him a B, just off of that.
Just for
that. I honestly, one of those players I could probably give a no pass type grade and give him a pass, but I give him a B just because I did like what he did bring when he came up from San Diego. And he's one of the guys that I have a lot of hope and faith in amongst the Ducks because of his size and the speed he can bring when he has it. I think if they can get him to play an extremely physical game while also keeping that skill game together, he could be an absolute package. He's got the length, he's got the passing ability, his speed. So I would like to see a lot. I think that's kind of what led me to giving him the B, is just more the future potential I do see out of him next season. And yeah, if there's anywhere to be this coming August, September timeframe, it's going to be hanging out at Great Park Ice, because it's going to be wild at training camp.
Yeah. All right. Here's what our fans said about Nestorenko. 2 people gave him an A, 18 a B, 34 people gave him a C, 10 D, and 2 Fs.
Dang. Someone's upset over there.
No kidding.
Giving all these Fs out here.
So next up, we got Ryan Strome. I'm gonna start this one off because I have three separate grades for him. I have the player, and then just him as as part of the team, and then him as a salesman at the NHL shop. As a player, I'm gonna give him a C. Because I don't know. I wish that we could see more of the Ryan Strome before he became like the Rangers Ryan Strome that we saw before. I feel like if we saw that, it'd be a lot better. But as a person, he's an A because I feel like he's someone that you would love to hang out with and be around, and it feels like he always has a good time and everything. And as the NHL shop person, I'm giving him an F because he was horrible at selling those jerseys in New York. But it was the funniest video, though. And especially at the end where he put his jersey in front of his brother's jersey. And obviously we know who's the better Strome right now.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 grades. I thought I had a little fun to it. Kyle, what would you give Stromer?
Well, I mean, if you played with Alex Ovechkin, you'd probably be the better Strome too. But I'm gonna give him a. Where is it? I got a whole list here. Oh, B. I gave him a B. I could probably give him a C, but I do like him as a player overall. And again, that the Frank Vetrano, Terry Strome line just never broke apart, never got a chance to do anything with anyone else. He was probably one of he did a good job as being that kind of top line, second line center, whichever, on paper they'd be the top line, but I felt like once Leo and Cutter got together, they were the top line. But would like to see a little bit more out of him. Definitely a locker room guy, brings the energy. He sets the tone for a lot of the guys. So that veteran presence that he was brought over for, definitely he did that well. He did his job for that. But I could see him being a piece that could be bringing some assets back if the Anaheim Ducks want to sell him out.
Agreed. All right, Colby.
I gave him a B-, and that's kind of me being generous because it could also just go down to a C grade. But like everyone has been saying, he's the locker room guy. He's the glue guy, which is why I'm giving him that B- because he's the veteran figure who's also he's a super nice guy if you ever meet him outside of the rink, which, it's I'm sure that's how he is in the rink as well. He had 41 points on the season, but 31 of them were assists, which, I can't fault assists. It still led to a goal. So that's good. But I mean, it just all ties back into that Vetrano Terry line that I'm I wish we would have broken that up at one point in the season, because half of the time that line just made me want to turn off the game. It really hurt to watch a lot of the time. He didn't stand out to me necessarily in any way that was wow, man, Ryan Strome, I love this guy. He's that good. He never did that for me once in the season. It's like we were saying, I could see him being used on the trade market, and I wouldn't be sad about it.
All right, how about you, Doug?
Well, I'm probably a little bit unfair to Ryan on this one, but I gave him a C- because, again, I compare him to a top 6 center around the league, and compared to anybody else around the league, he's awful at what he does. He's not productive enough offensively. He's an absolute. He took more faceoffs than anybody by far and was terrible at them. 41.7% in the faceoff dot, and he took over 1,200 faceoffs. So if he's taking the draw, we're losing possession right off the bat, and he's not good enough defensively to go battle it back. And when I say I'm a little unfair to him, it's because of he was brought in to be the veteran presence along with Killorn, one of those guys that's supposed to lead the young guys. And exactly what you were talking about, or what you guys have all talked about, is he's the nice guy and everybody likes him. That's not what this group needs. I think he set a tone of complacency in the locker room. And I think we need veterans that are red asses that don't accept losing. And I think Ryan Strome accepts losing. I think he goes in there and is like, I'm happy to be here today. It's another beautiful day. Let's have a good day, guys. No, you need guys that are pissed off when they lose, and I never see that from him. And Alex Killorn looks like a guy that doesn't like losing, has a little bit more passion in that sense. Ryan Strome just does not bring that energy to me. And so I gave him a C- because as one of the veteran leaders on this team, it's to him to set the example to the young guys, in my opinion, that this is how you win. And I think he's teaching young guys, this is how you cash checks. And I don't like that. And so I would, it's a C- for me for Ryan.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's what our fans said about Ryan Strome. We had 8 people give him an A, 20 a B, 21 a C, 11 D, and 6 Fs. So,
Well, we know where his brother voted.
Yeah, I would love to hear from some of these people, man. Tell me what you're seeing, or I mean, my goodness, an A.
Not just 1 or 2.
That's what I mean. 8 people
out.
saying it's A, and then 6 people saying he's an F. He's not that bad either. I mean, he's not an abomination out there. He's just, my goodness.
Yeah, but speaking of Alex Killorn, since you just brought him up and everything, Alex Killorn's our next player.
Yeah, he had a good I thought he had a good season for Alex. I was disappointed with his year before that, and this year he stepped forward and had a much better year. I was hoping he would get to the 20-goal group so that we would have a 6th member of the 20-goal scoring group there, but even so, 19 goals from Alex Killorn at this point in his career is a good season. You got to be happy with that. And if he can bring that every year, I'm fine with that. I thought, unlike Strome, he set a better physical presence and veteran presence on the team of just kind of teaching. Like you guys have said many times, I wish we'd see a little bit more line combination so he could teach on the ice. But that's going to be taken care of. That coaching staff problem has been resolved. So I was happy with Killorn this past year. I was not the year before, but I think because I was so disappointed in him last year or 2 years ago, it made this year's performance a lot more palatable for me. So I gave him a B.
Colby?
I gave him a B plus. It's hard for me because my eye test when I'm watching him, it's rough. There's times that I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like he appears very slow half the time when I'm watching games. And then I look at his stats and I'm like, holy cow, like he's not as bad as I think he is. I mean, 37 points he put up this year. He's quietly effective for us, which I think a lot of people don't really realize. I mean, I didn't personally. He played all 82 games for us, which is amazing because a lot of our guys can barely finish a season. And he even had our highest plus minus on the team, which is solid. He gave him that much needed veteran consistency, which I can't fault him for anything. He was really solid for us.
Yeah, and I gave him a B as well. He was great defensively for forward this year's season for us. And Colby, I think he just looks slower next to Carlson and Cutter. So that's probably why you're saying that. Because I felt like because Zegras isn't the fastest player. So when he was with Zegras, it looked like they kind of matched up. But Zegras is like more of a east-west kind of player and everything. And Cutter and Leo are just like north-south players. So, but I liked Killorn's game this year. I agree with Doug. Like you could tell, like he brought like a certain like mentality to this team, and that's something we've needed. And you could tell, like at points this season, they had that mentality, and then it's like the other half of the season they had Strome's mentality. So I completely agree with you guys on that one. So I gave Killorn a B.
I think he's one of those guys that he has such an effortless skating stride that it doesn't look like he's putting in all the effort. There was a guy, I don't know if you guys remember, Garrett Anderson, left fielder for the Angels. He ran so effortlessly that it didn't look like he was trying hard. But when you looked at the ground he covered, you realized he was putting in good effort. And Killorn is that guy. He doesn't have to lean forward and really have the leg drive to get up to speed. So it doesn't look like, because I had the same feeling. It's like, let's go, man. Let's get your ass up the ice. And but I think it's just an effortless stride with him. And ideally, if he is a third line guy, that's perfect. Because that means the Ducks' top 6 is solid, and that's where he fits in. And if he can be that, if Verbeek does his work and he slides down into the bottom 6, the Ducks are going to be in a good spot because he's a perfect bottom 6 forward. He's being asked to do too much in the top 6 at this point in his career.
Yeah. Garrett Anderson is such a great example. I loved watching GA when I'm an Angels fan, sadly. So I completely agree with that. It's even Garrett Anderson's swing was so effortlessly as well. So
yeah,
that's a great example, Doug. Kyle, how about you for Killorn?
Well, kind of like Colby said, when watching him, and especially towards the end of this year, there was a couple massive breakdowns that occurred because of Killer. And I was kind of going in thinking I was going to have to like rip him apart on the grades. But then you look at the numbers and you're like, well, he actually did really well. So I gave him a B+. I unfortunately, my fear with him is that a lot of teams are going to want someone like Alex Killorn on their team, especially teams that want success right now, because of the role that he fills and just how effortless he can get points. And like you said, he could fit in that bottom 6 role really well, or even a middle 6 for a team that's trying to compete. And so I see a lot of teams asking for Killorn if it comes down to trying to trade for any type of skill piece that Anaheim's trying to pick up. But if he is on the team, I think he's going to be a very good presence to keep, because he does not like to lose. He's got that just look of meanness on his face, and you can tell when things are not going well, he's not happy about it. And being attached to Carlson this year, when on the forecheck, like he plays a really good high F3 type style when it comes to the forecheck, because he kind of lets those younger guys go in, lay the body, and then he's there to seal it off and protect the D as well. So I really like the way he plays on the boards and supports those younger guys. So it would be interesting to see him on that third line and kind of more of a shutdown role.
I got a couple questions for you, Kyle. You mentioned trade positions for him. A guy like Robertson from Dallas, is that a guy that you think would be a piece Dallas would be interested in getting for because to get them a guy that's won a Stanley Cup, is that a potential move, that kind of thing that you're looking at?
I mean, I think they definitely they seem to want to be bigger with how things went with Edmonton. They they brought Rantanen in, but once he got silenced, they kind of got bullied around by the Oilers. And to have that ability that Killorn can bring, whereas Robertson a little smaller compared to Killorn and not as physical, but I could see them wanting to add that. The only issue is they're really trying to move Robertson because of cap space issues, and they're about the same contract AAV. So I don't know if they'd want to do that dollar for dollar unless there's like a retention of contract.
And you mentioned the intensity on his face, and it reminds it's unfair because natural faces have different emotions, right? Like Killorn definitely has that resting bitch face where he just always looks like he's in a bad mood, and Ryan Strome doesn't. Ryan Strome always looks like he's in a pretty good mood, so maybe that's unfair for me to evaluate. It reminds me of, and I'm going to continue bringing up old Ducks, Freddie Olesen. The smiling Swede, I called him, because that guy always had a smile on his face, and he would get beat badly, turn it over, lead to a 2-on-1, they'd score, and then they'd cut to him and he'd be smiling. I'd be yelling at the TV, what the F are you smiling about? But that was just his resting face. That was just his natural look. It's kind of unfair to Strome the way I kind of evaluate him, and maybe I give Killorn too much credit for his intensity because that's just the way his face looks. I don't know.
Well, Killorn was my first player interview once I took over Locked On Ducks, and just doing that through Zoom, it was like, talk about intimidating, because you're just like, this guy hates me.
I can tell you this: when he scores and when he has that like
gladiator,
I feel like I can run through a wall after watching him. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready to go on the ice, and I'm at home.
I was sitting on the goal side for that Nashville win. That was awesome when he got the game winner against Nashville. I was on that goal end in like the 400s on row A, right above it with my friend. And yeah, that was such an epic, like you just felt the energy from him, just like, like he's about to rip someone's face off.
Yeah. All right. Here's what our fans said about Killorn. 4 people gave him an A, 31 a B, 23 a C, 6 D, and 2 Fs. I don't understand
Dang.
where are these Fs?
Tell your dad to
coming
get off the voting polls.
from?
Yeah, and his burner account apparently.
Yeah, seriously. Giving Johnston an A and all this.
Yeah, if the same person that gave Johnston an A gave Killorn an F.
What are you watching?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Mason McTavish. All right. Let's
The
go, Kyle.
dog.
Why don't you start? Kyle?
Well, Mason, I give him an A. Definitely future captain potential. With just his presence, and talk about a guy that has a RBF. He always looks like he's just not having it, which I find very ironic because him and Zegras seem to have become like the pair now, and Zegras is like his personality, and then McTavish is his, and they're like totally polar opposites, but they feed off each other extremely well. And led the team in goals. He was. I felt like he was a little stale, like everyone at the beginning, and then he just kind of silently just started scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring. I would love to see him have a lot more production on the power play, but that was not because of his doing. They tried to feed him the one-timer every single power play. Like any video coach could just be like, this is what the Ducks do on the power play. Watch out for it. And that was it. There was never a change. Nothing. There was no newness whatsoever. So no fault to McTavish, but an absolute solid A player. And I see him breaking into that A+ range next year.
I agree with you, Kyle. I don't know if he has the RBF face. It looks like he's just trying to solve long division in his head. I feel like because he's always like, it's just like trying to solve like a math equation in his head. I think it's more that than the resting bitch face look. But
Definitely puzzled look.
Yeah, I gave him a B. Only because like he was not good in the beginning at all. I felt like once he finally got back, maybe because he wasn't fully healthy, maybe because it seemed like after he got back from that one injury, he just went off and everything like that. So, and I agree with the power play. So, but like I feel like there still could have been more from him. So that's why I wanted to give him an A, but I had to be realistic at the same time. So maybe a B+ then, really, then. But next year it better be an A from him though. Yeah. All right, Colby, why don't you go next?
I gave him an A as well. I was pretty happy for the most part with what he did this year. Granted, I'd love to see him win more faceoffs and not be thrown out. Still don't know why that was happening all season. But, for a big upside that he had this year was he only had 38 penalty minutes, which still sucks. But last season he had 86. So, I mean, I'll take that as a win that he's not in the box as much as he was, because when he's not in the box, he's able to produce, which he had a very slow start with. Everyone was talking about the ketchup bottle for him and Cutter. It takes a while to get it flowing, but once it's flowing, it keeps coming. And that's kind of what we saw with him.
All right, Doug?
I give him a B+ because for very similar reasons to you, Cody. It's the first half of the season was disappointing, and he absolutely caught fire at the end of the year, which I love to see, and I hope that carries over into next year, obviously. And I think it will. I think we all are on the same page that this guy is absolutely about to take off as a star player under Coach Q. His ability is there. I think being put in a better position with better special teams, this guy has a lot of potential to be an A+ next year. But for this year, it was just, if the first half of the season looked like the second half of the season, it would easily be an A, but it was not. I do give him the B+ because he was the only Ducks player that took enough faceoffs to qualify that was over 50% in the faceoff draw. So at least he gave us a chance to win the puck to start a shift. And that's a huge thing that he needs to build off of. But I love him. I saw a Bruins blogger, podcaster talking about getting him as an RFA. And I'm like, good luck, man. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The
if you think the
Canadians
Bruins-
rumor has me dying.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Ducks have always been that team that the rest of the league looks at as like a farm team, right? Like, who can we get from them and who can we offload our crap to? And the Ducks don't help themselves when they take on guys like Trouba and with no many retained, so everybody's like, well, those guys are idiots. We can offload our contract to them. And look at how they got Cam Fowler for nothing. So it doesn't help, but it's also at the same time, it's like the Bruins. First of all, the Ducks were a better team than the Bruins this past season.
Mhm.
Secondly, they have more cap space. Why would he's not going anywhere. So I agree. He's potential captain material. And you were mentioning the face, the look. Mason always looks to me like the kind of guy, he's the mechanic you would encounter if you broke down in the middle of nowhere. He's the guy that would come out in overalls and just have that face where you're not sure if you're about to get killed or have him fix your car. But he's not a guy I would want to encounter on the wrong side of, but I love having him on my team.
Agree.
Absolutely.
Here's what our fans voted: 41 and A, 23 B, and 2 C's. Not too skewed on this one, so that's we're getting better on the grades now.
Yeah, finally one that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, all right, next up, Trevor Zegras. All right, Doug, why don't you start with this one?
It's I know you got his jersey back there, Colby, but
I know. Let me hear it.
Look, I'm really kind of like we talked about with Lundestrom. I want to give him one more year. Zegras has one more year, and it may not even be a full season to win me back because these last 2 years have been brutal. He has just not been productive, but I'm gonna blame Cronin. Cronin, I think, was the absolute wrong coach for this guy, trying to make him into a 200-foot player. Not everybody has to be that player. I think you can give Trevor Zegras the Teemu Selanne rules of you don't have to play defense, but you better be productive on offense.
Mhm.
And if you're gonna get away with cheating in the defensive zone and flying the zone early, you better be putting up the points. And that's the approach I would take with him next season. But he better get off to a good start because 12 goals from a guy with his hands, I get only 57 games, but it's 2 years in a row now of less offensive production than this guy was on the cover of NHL 23 or whatever. And now he's a forgotten player on this team. You can watch a Ducks game and not even realize he's on the ice most nights. Whereas he was must-see TV a few years ago when he's doing the Michigan and creating incredible goals. So I need to see the Zegras we saw under Dallas Eakins return this season. And if I don't see it by December, help him pack. Let's get him to the airport. Let's get him anywhere else. And I put a comment on Kyle's Threads account there that is who I would trade for Jason Robertson. That is the guy I would dangle for Jason Robertson because they're the same position and they're the same role on the team. But I would like Jason Robertson, and you can take the chance that Trevor Zegras rediscovers his offensive touch. But I gave him a C-. I did not like his game this year at all. I do blame a lot of that on Cronin, but he's got to own it as well. He's got to put up we need to see more from Zegras when he's on the ice. He has to be a threat to be creative offensively.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was definitely the coaching that really ruined Zegras' last couple of seasons because Eakins just let him go do your thing on offense. Don't worry about defense. And look, he put up back-to-back 60-point seasons, and he was, like I said, the cover athlete for NHL 23. And then Cronin comes in, and he's like, no, we're playing. I feel like the coach from the Mighty Ducks D3. No, he's like, no, we're playing defense, kind of thing. And just kind of, it wasn't for his game and everything like that. So I gave Zegras a B just because like when he was injured, like you could tell the offense wasn't there, but when he came back, you could tell like the offense really changed. Like he was finding players, he finds like players that I could see everything, and even I didn't see that guy open, on the view on the TV and everything. So that's why I would give him a B, just because I like the way he plays when he does have the puck. Yes, he makes stupid turnovers, but who doesn't? But he's also, the turnovers that he does cause, he's also making up for extra plays that he does on offense as well. So, Kyle, why don't you go next?
So with Zegras, I gave him a B. I think that with his injury woes, it was kind of hard to fault him all the way this season, and with the coaching issue and everything. I mean, Doug, don't let Jake Rudolph or Felix Sicard hear you say that Zegras wasn't doing anything on the ice, because that's all those guys care about. They're the analytics guys, and they're always like, "Look at Z's makes everything better." But
Yeah, that's.
I think
we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that yeah, we need to see a little bit more out of the offense, but a big selling point for me that kind of changed my mind at the end of the season was hearing the Pat Verbeek interview on the Cam and Strick podcast, and they asked about Zegras and all the trade rumors and all this stuff that was going on, but they mentioned that with the whole Cronin trying to have him play this 200-foot game was actually appreciated by Zegras, and that he admitted that he never had a coach prior ever try to like hold him to that standard. So there was an appreciation to like improve his game in a sense. But I think being able to allow him to release the offensive just power horse that he can be will be absolutely necessary for him to stay with Anaheim next year for the full year.
Yeah. All right, Colby.
It's hard for me. I've been a Zegras truther since day one of his career. I gave him a C+, and he missed 25 games. He didn't really look like himself when he played. But like we mentioned, the team was different when he was playing. They felt a lot more offensively capable of making these chances when he was on the ice. But it's hard. I feel like he's turning into my what could have been player, because like we were mentioned, under Dallas, he was a completely different player. He was back-to-back 60-point seasons. Granted, his defense was atrocious, if it was even there most nights. So it's nice that he's trying to become this two-way player, but at what cost? It's kind of, what if this never happened? What if Cronin never did this with him? Could he still be doing this and producing like he used to be? But I don't know. It's really tough for me. I want him to be able to go and score those goals, put up another 60-point season. But I'm also at the point where I'm like, dude, if Anaheim isn't working out for you, let's get you off somewhere where you're not hurting yourself, you're not hurting your image, and you can go try out somewhere fresh and see if that's going to work out better for you. So I agree with let's ship him to Dallas for Robo if they're willing, because why not,
Bring Robo home.
Yeah.
Well, it's also as we look at it, I think we all expect a big jump from the Ducks production next season, both points wise in the standings and from all the players. So if they do achieve their potential and make the playoffs, as I mentioned to Kyle on Threads, Zegras isn't going to be productive in the playoffs. This guy isn't built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
You talk about Lundstrom getting knocked off the puck. I mean, he's going to absolutely get destroyed in there unless he bulks up. But if he bulks up, that takes away from what he is. So he's going to have to find his role. Like I said, I gave him 1 year, and he's in a great position this coming season because the Ducks have the talent and now the coaching to really bring out the best in him. And he's got 2 years of defensive coaching to draw on to improve his defensive game. He doesn't have to be great. He just has to be competent. But by all means, be the offensive player you were born to be, and show that creativity in the offensive zone when you have the puck, and bring the fun back to Anaheim when you have the puck, because we know it's there. And we saw flashes of it this season, but not enough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, and here's what our fans have about Zegras. You have 15 for A, 32 for B, 18 for C, and 1 D. So,
Zegers hater.
yeah. Must be a Montreal fan because he wants him. They want him in Montreal. All right, next up we have number 61, Cutter Gauthier. Let's go to Colby because I know that's your favorite.
I'm a big Cutter fan.
Got her.
It's watched him all throughout Boston College, transitioning to Anaheim. He had a really rough start for Anaheim, in my personal opinion. Very slow. So towards the end of the season, we started picking it up and he got more comfortable. That Cutter Leo connection, man. I'm so hyped to see what that is going to grow into. So I gave him a B plus. He's not quite at that A level, and that's only because the first half of the season was pretty rough for him. So I think next year, if he can produce both half of the season, that's easily he'll be an A player. And I think hopefully Q can do it, but I think he can easily be our next 40-goal scorer. And maybe that's me overstepping and just overhyping him because I love him as a player. But I think he really is capable of it. I mean, he put up 20 goals this season in his rookie season, which, you know, he was on a line with Leo and Killer. So it's possible if we revamp our top six that he can be put up with faster players who are going to be feeding him and everything. So I have a lot of hope for him.
Yeah. Kyle?
So I gave Cutter an A minus. And a big part of that is because this was his first full season and he played all 82 games. He was one of the few Ducks to play all 82 games. And for a freshman to come in and play that many games in the entire season is pretty unheard of. There's not a lot of players even in the league that play all 82 games for their teams. And then to break the 20-goal mark, I definitely think he was held back by Cronin. He's probably the biggest victim of Cronin. Because once he got put with Leo, it was like a totally different player. You got the confidence with his speed, the confidence with his skill, his playmaking ability, his goal scoring. Even Verbeek, when we went to the Orange Alliance meeting kind of towards the end of the season, he talked about that there's another level to Cutter's game, and it all stems from him getting confidence in his speed and his actual ability to play at a fast NHL pace and even faster than most. And I think that really started to come together with Leo. And then he carries it on over to the Worlds, where he was one of the top scorers for the USA team, wins gold with Jackson Lacombe. So you got your teammate there with you. And you could just feel that energy that he has right now. I absolutely expect him to break out next year and have a great year. Him and Leo are going to, I think, be competing for the top point getters next year for the team.
No, I agreed. It makes me wonder how many more goals he would have had if he actually would have scored within the first month or so of the season, because it's not like he wasn't trying. You know,
he had the most shots with no goals, I think, in the league.
Yeah, I know, because I can tell you after like the first like 5 games, when I was playing on the Underdog app and I was doing the plus minus, like for plus shots, I always put Cutter as plus because I knew he was in at least. I was like, it was gonna hit every time. But I like the way he wasn't just a shooter as everyone expected. Like more towards the end of the season, like he started like driving the net. He started causing the offense and making plays. And I was like, okay, there's more to his game than just shooting that everyone expected. So I really like that from him, and I'm really looking forward to the next Solani Korea 2.0, pretty much with Cutter and Leo. So
now, yeah, Beckett Seneca to those two.
Yeah. Oh God. Woo, woo, woo. So I'm looking forward to cut that duo and everything. So I gave Cutter a B for the season. I probably would have been closer to an A if, like the scoring would have started. And I know it didn't help that Cronin was putting him on the 4th line to get. Oh, he has to learn to play those minutes. Oh, no, he doesn't. It's not his game. So yeah. So I gave Cutter a B. Doug.
I gave him a B plus. I am just as bullish on him as everybody else. I loved the trade that they made to get him for Drysdale. That was one of the best trades the Ducks have made in a long time. And seeing just a taste of him 2 seasons ago at the end of the year got me excited for this last season. And then again, the slow start, being on the fourth line. I mean, this is not a guy that can play with Ross Johnston and produce points, for God's sake. I mean, it's just, and that's a coach's job, is to put players in a position to succeed. And that was not it. I mean, just what are you thinking doing this? So the fact that he ended the season with 20 goals is amazing, because he was had such a bad start and such a quiet start. But I don't think it's a Solani Korea. I really think he's a Getzlaff Perry with Carlson. And because they have the size, they have the skill, they have the connection right now. And as Kyle said, if you add Beckett Seneca to that line, they need a sponsorship with KFC, because that will be finger licking good for Ducks fans for years to come. My God, is that
We'll be getting all sorts of Chick-fil-A.
tantalizing. Oh man, it is just so. I can't wait for next season. And it's been years since I've been excited about a Ducks season.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to see what moves they make this offseason, what Coach Q is able to do, and how this team plays next season. Because I really think the potential is there for this team to be a surprise team to the entire league, and not only make the playoffs, but be a strong team all season long. And Cutter's a big part of that. He looked so good at the end of the year, and that potential is there. And we know it's not just a flash. We know that was his potential when he came in. He was one of the top rookies expected in the entire league, and he showed it at the end of the year. And if he can build on that, man, the Ducks have got a star player for many years to come.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show the fans vote, and there's one person. If Colby ever finds out who this person is, you made the list.
Are we taking him out at the knees?
You're on the list.
Oh my gosh.
I will track this person down.
It was probably
Flyers
Jamie
fan.
Drysdale.
Yeah, that's a Flyers fan.
He was a Flyers fan for sure. It had been. By the way, the Philadelphia Flyers are on my I hate you list now.
Oh yeah.
So 55 people gave Cutter an A, 10 people gave him a B, and the person that made Colby's enemy list we had one person give him an F.
Psychos.
Wow, that has me puzzled. I think I'm more puzzled with that than Ross Johnson getting an A.
Like, did they accidentally click it and then they were like, "No, I can't take my vote back."
It's usually just the Jamie Drysdale fans who haven't quite accepted it. That's
Jamie
what I've gotten
Drysdale
a lot of
girlies.
DMs about.
I was going to say that those people exist.
There's
like a
few out
group
there.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People that really get off on injuries.
I see him at the Honda Center, and I'm like, oh boy, let it go.
Yeah. All right. Our last forward that we got to grade is our favorite also. Well, Leo Carlson.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with this one. I feel like I was very hesitant on my grade on this one. I wanted to give him an A, but he was kind of struggling in the very beginning as well. But right after the Four Nations, man, that's like the Leo I'm excited to see the most. And honestly, like, even though he only played the one game and that game didn't really matter for Sweden during the Four Nations, but I just was so happy when he got to go there, because he would learn from those players, not from Cronin or Clune or Brent Thompson or whatever. He would learn from better coaches, better players, and you could tell it changed. So I gave Leo an A, even though he struggled in the beginning, like, and everything. But once he got comfortable, oh my God, it was crazy the way he went off. And rumor still has it that Connor Ingram is still sliding from that game winner against Utah. So
He's actually in New Mexico now.
Well, that's good to know. So, Colby, why don't you go next for Leo?
I wanted to give him an A as well, but I'm like, I can't really give him an A and not give Cutter an A. So I gave him a B plus as well. Just, I thought he had a really good season, another 20 goal, just like Cutter. And I think he's on track to be our most complete young center that we've had in years. So I'm really hyped. Watching him at the Four Nations at the men's tournament a couple weeks ago, seeing him with guys like Nylander, I know he got bounced from the playoffs like he always does, but playing with guys like that who are able to teach him so many different things. And I think that next season and the years to come, he's going to be one of our standout players that everyone's going to be like, wow, you see this Carlson clip that just happened? You see this that happened? Granted, we already have clips like that out there. Home opener, he put goalie on skates. Goalie was already on skates, but it was crazy to see. And I'm really hyped. I hate to admit it, but I was skeptical when we drafted him, which, most fans were. Everyone was like, Fantilli, why? Why not him? But now I'm like, I'm an idiot. Why did I ever doubt that Leo was not that guy? He is 100% that guy.
Yeah. Doug?
If you're a Ducks fan and you don't love Leo Carlson, you're not a Ducks fan. The guy is very fun to watch and has incredible hands, incredible vision, incredible creativity. But like we've said with a lot of players, the first half was not there for him. And so I can't give him an A because it wasn't a complete season. I can't give him a B plus because his faceoffs are atrocious. He's been working too much with Ryan Strome. He needs to work with Mason McTavish. He needs to learn how to win in the faceoff. 41.4% is awful. Absolutely awful. If he just skated forward and tied the dude up, he would have a better winning percentage than that. So he's got to get better in faceoffs. But of all the players on the Ducks that I think will improve the most under Coach Q, him and Zegras are in a tie. I think the potential for Leo to become an absolute star number one center in this league is very strong because he has all the physical tools. He's been playing against grown men for a long time, and now he's going to have the coaching to put him in a position and the line mates and the comfort. So put him with Cutter, potentially Beckett for an entire season. Let them go. It's going to be amazing. And I think what the Four Nations and now the World Championships have taught him, or reminded him, I should say, is that he belongs with elite players. Mm-hmm. When you walk in that Team Sweden locker room and you see the other players around there and you realize I'm not here as a fan. I'm a peer. I'm a teammate of these guys. And you get that taste of it. It just gets that, oh yeah, one, hockey can be fun again. And two, I do have elite talent. I am a star player, despite what I may have heard from my coaching for the last 2 years. So I'm excited as hell to see what he can do in the future. I gave him a B because his faceoffs are terrible and the first half was not very good. But the potential is there for him to be an absolute stud as soon as October.
Yeah,
definitely.
Kyle?
So I am, I guess, the nice guy here, but maybe it's just my Swedish blood calling. But I gave Leo a minus. Even though he did have the struggles at the beginning of the year, I think he played a pretty solid game throughout the season. Like, he stuck to kind of himself as he was, but issues with the coaching, with the team, confidence. I think there was a lot of voices going on in Leo's head at that time. Verbeek telling him, like, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder. And I think when you get a lot of people telling you, like, you're going to have a hard season, you kind of go into it like a little, you're squeezing the stick a little more. You're having a little hard time. But then, yeah, going to Team Sweden for the Four Nations, hanging out with those top guys, getting to feel like you belong, the only Anaheim Duck player to go to one of the Four Nation teams and to hang out with those people. I can only imagine what it's like to spend some time with Victor Hedman or William Nylander and have some good conversations like that. Then he goes off to Worlds. Yeah, it wasn't the Duck season, but after he goes out there, gets 10 points. So he's definitely buzzing out there. And I really liked once he finally got lined up with Cutter Gauthier. I felt like the two of them finally got to unleash their speed and skill together. The little 5-foot passes to each other, bing, bong, boom, getting into the zone, the breakouts. It felt a lot more of an NHL caliber play. So that's why I give him the A-. I think there's he was one of the top goal scorers of the team. So if I'm going to give other guys those grades, I can't be giving them too low.
When you look back though at Leo, and this is a question for all of you, the guy we saw at the end of this past season, is there a huge difference between the guy we saw his first game 2 years ago? That's where I kind of hesitate to give him the A, is I haven't seen the growth yet pay off. We saw definitely skill, but we saw that in the very first game. You could tell this guy's special with his playmaking, and I haven't seen the growth and development in his game to now. I think it's about to take off. I think he's really about to put it all together, but it just seems like it's a very similar guy that we've seen, and I want to see that next step, become that star player.
I think for me, the big thing that sticks out where I say, yeah, he's a top grade player is when he plays against like the Oilers or Vegas. Like when he's playing against those big name centers like McDavid, Draisaitl, Eichel, he shows up and he can hold his own, and he's right there on par with them. I think that's where I get really excited, is that he's kind of had this weird coaching issue with being only under Cronin, and now to have an actual NHL caliber coach, I think is going to take someone who's already on par with McDavid and Draisaitl and now bring out another level of him.
Yeah. All right. Here's what our fans said about Leo. So we had 50 people give him an A, 14 a B, and 2 C's. All right. And that is it for the forwards. Now we'll move on to our first defenseman, Tristan Luneau. All right. Doug, why don't you go first?
Well, this one, I know Kyle has kind of referenced the pass, no pass. I got to give him an incomplete. He didn't show up to class enough for me to give you a grade. 6 games. And I just can't give you a grade because I didn't see enough of you in the NHL to have a. So if I had to, I'd be a C. You weren't bad, but you weren't great. Literally no points. -5. But we all know the potential is there. We all know the organization thinks very highly of him. The Ducks are loaded with defensive prospects, and that's one of the battles in camp. And Verbeek, I think, has his work cut out for him to thin that group a little bit this summer because there's just too many guys. I mean, we're going to go over, this is the first of them. He's an NHL defenseman in 2025-26. But is it with the Ducks? And if so, who is moving out to make room for him? Because there's too many NHL caliber defensemen on this team and only 6 spots. So Luneau is a C. If this was the San Diego Gulls grades, I'd have a different look, but it's an incomplete for me.
Yep. Colby?
I kind of echo that, it's his goal season was pretty solid, he did really well, but man, those first 6 games he played with us were rough. So I feel bad doing it, but I gave him a D just because every game he played, he was overwhelmed. And I just think maybe it's the stress and everything that comes with playing in the NHL to start a season like that, but it didn't really seem like that was for him at that time. So I have really high hopes for him that next season he's able to come and play and he looks like a stud, because I know that he's capable of it, but it really just depends on if he takes that next step to become that player for the Ducks.
Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah, same thing. Honestly, I don't even remember him playing. Like I missed those games or something at the beginning of the year with my son playing hockey, because I was like, I totally forgot he even stepped on the NHL ice. All I can remember about him is his AHL career this last season. And he did really well down there. And he is the rare right-handed shot that we don't really have a lot of in the prospect pool. So I guess he kind of has the credit there that he might be able to squeeze in earlier than some of these other guys in the lineup. But yeah, I gave him a C just because I was like, I mean, he was here. But yeah, probably an incomplete would be the better grade there.
Yeah. No, honestly, you guys said it all, and I agree with every single one of you. I'm going to give him just the incomplete, I guess, too, just because like he did all right when he was up. So Yeah. So, all right. Here's what our fans said about Luneau. 3 people gave him an A, 14 B, 29 C's, 17 D's, and 3 F's. All right, and then we'll move on to another incomplete candidate is Oliver Gillington. Was it
Chillington.
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 Chillington. What a great
King
way to spell
Chillington.
it. Doug, why don't you start us off with this one?
I give him a Hayden Fleury. That's my grade for him. It's exactly the same dude. Like I liked Oliver Shillington when he was with the Flames. I thought he had a lot of potential. It never got realized, and when he joined the Ducks, I was like, I forgot that they even signed him or acquired him, and suddenly he was there, and it's like, okay, let's see what he can do. And it's 6 games. I think that's going to be his last 6 games with the Ducks. He's going to be one of those guys that's a puck doku specialty down the road, because I think he's going to kind of kick around the league now as just a depth defenseman. But again, an incomplete. It's not fair to judge him based on 6 games at the end of the year. I do wonder why they gave him the minutes and didn't call up Tristan Luneau. I think that's a little bit of a failure of the organization to not give him another chance at the end of the year to put what he learned in the AHL into practice in the NHL and give him a better taste going into the offseason. But they decided to play Shillington instead. I didn't see enough from him to give a grade. Every now and then I'd see him on the bench and I'd be like, oh yeah, Shillington's on this team. So again, my grade is Hayden Fleury.
Do we all just agree on that just to save a little bit of time?
Yeah.
It was really embarrassing when he had to come to the Orange Alliance thing, like the day after the deadline. Everyone was like, Who
are
is
you?
this guy?
Hey man, line's behind me.
Yeah, literally. Like
The
he
line's
looks like
over
a
there,
hockey player,
sir.
but
You want me
Yeah.
to sign your jersey? No, I'm good, man. I'm just here for the players.
I feel like they
he's
didn't
this
call up
drunk guy.
but I feel like they didn't call up the nose because I believe that was the time the goals are like starting to make a push
Yeah,
to
that
try
was
to
when
make
they
the
were in
playoffs.
playoff contention.
Yeah, they were trying to make the push.
I don't get.
So yeah. But here's what our fans said about
Wow.
Killington.
An
Wow,
A.
that's gotta
Yeah,
be
I know. I don't understand some of the I'm not even gonna read it out. Everyone can see, but let's see. Here's one of our pals, Adam Broll, but she had goals, still had
The goals still had
chance.
no chance. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like that's not an excuse. The AHL playoff push. If you're in a playoff position, that's one thing. But if you're trying to get in there, come on now.
yeah. All right.
I didn't
Next up,
understand that.
Next up, we'll probably save a little bit of time on this one. Defenseman Urho Vakanainen. Do I just say incomplete and on that one?
Yeah.
Would have loved to have him up for a full season, but yeah, not.
I'm just happy he finally scored that first goal the season before because he kept getting things turned back for offsides or whatever. So here's what our fans voted for Urho Vakanainen. So we'll save a little
Even
bit of time
on the season D's.
I know,
Another
right?
A. My goodness.
All right, next up, longtime Duck, but no longer a Duck, Cam Fowler. All right, Colby, start us off.
You know, I've gotten a bad rap with him and his wife, but I won't say anything too mean out of fear. But you know,
Now the St. Louis people going after you now.
yeah, I was very public with my disgust towards
I
him.
remember that.
And you know, I was very happy when he was gone. I'm very happy he went on to the Blues and had a good playoff run. He was fantastic. It sucks that he was not like that for us. But I think that just kind of boils down to Cronin, and he was just kind of checked out, you know. He gave his all to the franchise, and they came up short for the most part of his career, which sucks. So I understand why he wanted to get out, and I'm glad it was kind of a mutual cut ties. I think it was a little too late that everyone was kind of like, okay, finally this has happened. But I think I gave him a C or a C plus just because he had a really slow start to the season. He made a lot of mistakes. He didn't look like the guy that we used to see. So good for him going out with a bang, but
Yeah. Kyle?
I gave him a C plus just because he was kind of one of the only producing defenders at the time that he was on the team. But yeah, I was very over the Fowler show. A lot of expectations when he came in. Ironically, one of those guys though that like he never aged. I felt like I thought he was one of the younger cats, but then you're like, oh, he's been in the league for like 50 years. But he just kind of an upsetting way that things ended. Like him and Hampus Lindholm were my two defenders that drove me nuts for a long time because they just seemed like they would play okay, but then just like stop at some point in the game and just give up the dumbest plays, the worst goals, stuff like that. So it was good to see him go, but I just give him a C plus.
Yeah. Doug?
I give him a B, and it's more so because I think Cam was always a guy. I'm not an analytics person, and I know the analytics on him are terrible. And that was driving a lot of the narrative of get this guy the hell off the ice and out of town. But I look at him as a player that, as you said, had been here. He was part of the core from when the Ducks were last Cup contenders. And he remembers what that is. And I think he looked around the room and said, I have to do everything because this defense sucks and this coaching staff sucks. And I think he tried to do too much. Every single shift. He tried to be everything and take that on. And it's just too much. And it's going to lead to mistakes. And I think he knew he couldn't join the rush as easily because he had to be back because one, we hardly ever had the puck when he was here in the early part of the season. That was when the Ducks were getting outshot regularly by 8 to 10 shots a night. They're losing every faceoff. He's not in a position to join the rush, doesn't have the confidence. He goes to St. Louis, immediately becomes the player he had been his entire career with Anaheim, which is a solid two-way defenseman and a great fit. So his failures are failures of the organization and coaching staff, in my opinion, not him. So I can't give him a bad grade because he was trying to do everything he could to help this team, and it just never worked. And so I give him a B, but I wish him the best. And he's one of those guys that immediately you're like, why did we get rid of him? Clearly he wasn't the problem, which everybody thought he was.
Yeah.
He was here. I mean, I said for years, and I took a lot of crap online, he's our best defenseman. And everybody would be like, you're out of your mind. He's our worst defenseman. I'm like, are you watching the team put Shattenkirk in his role? Shattenkirk is awful.
Ugh.
I hated that.
I don't want to
guy.
bring back those memories.
I know. So, but I mean, those years,
Yeah,
just a few years ago, you look back and you're like, this defense is a tire fire. And the only person that I think would be on an NHL roster around the league is Cam Fowler. And now he's not there. He's doing well in St. Louis. God bless him. But as we said, the Ducks need to clear space for all these young guys. And if we look at next year's defense, Cam would not probably be there because of cap space and the minutes that he's going to play. So I give him a B. I wish him the best. I thank him for his time, but it was time for a new change for both him and the Ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I gave him I would say a C plus B minus kind of thing. I agree with you, Doug. Like he was there, and then like, I don't know, like you guys pretty much all kind of stole what I wanted to say anyways. So, but Adam said Fowler was overrated and his game was all hype with no solid production. Until you get a competent coach with Jim Montgomery, then he becomes a Norris candidate. So here's what our fans have to say about Fowler.
Dang.
Yeah.
I think those Fs would have voted for that before the season even started.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Fowler was absolutely the redheaded stepchild of this organization for years. Fans, the whole team stunk, but everybody was like, Cam Fowler needs to go. Yeah. Of all the players on the ice, that's the guy that needs to go. Okay, well, he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was upset we got rid of Manson before we got rid of Hampus Lindholm, but that's a different story.
It drives me crazy. We've all been watching these playoffs, and you look around the league, and I'm like, why did the Ducks not have a defense right now of Manson, Montour, Theodore,
All of our D.
Lindholm,
Oh
and
God,
Fowler?
Theodore.
My
That's
God.
the one that pisses me off the most is the Theodore one.
You're looking
That I hate Vegas mostly just because of that.
I mean, we literally had an alcoholic as a GM. That explains why we.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we got Clayton Stoner over Shea Theodore.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I would have happily given up Vatanen to keep Theodore at this point.
100%.
So,
100%.
all right. Next defenseman is Jacob Trouba. Kyle, why don't you start us off?
So I was a big fan of having Trouba come to the team. I thought that for the player himself, it was a good change of energy and role play for him. I felt like New York he had to be the guy. Like, he was the captain of the team. He had to be the physical guy. He had to be the one bringing the dogs into the fight. Like, he had to be every single tool for New York, and that just wears on you when every single game you have to try to drag your team in. So I felt like he got to come over to Anaheim and actually have a break and kind of just play his role. And I felt like he did it really well. He was physical. He wasn't like the crazy Trouba that we saw in New York, but he did have some big hits and he played physical. And being that second pairing, I thought was just, it worked out really well. Having him, and he was playing with, I think, Zellweger, right?
Yeah.
And then Minchkov was on the third. So yeah, him and Zellweger, I thought,
was in the lineup.
yeah. which was a whole nother weird gamble that Cronin did. But to have them like where you get the kind of more quicken up with Zellweger with the solid support that Trouba had, I thought that was a great pairing. So a good B for me, and I would absolutely love to have him stay. But another thing where I see teams trying to shop him more than any of the other D we have.
Yeah. Colby, why don't you go next?
I gave him, a C minus. Trouba was always one of those players that I hated just because of how physical he was, especially when he played against the Ducks. I'm like, man, this guy sucks. And then we got him on the team, and I'm like, okay, like maybe he's going to bring that. And I didn't really see any of that type of play that made me hate him when we were playing against him. And I'm like, oh, so he was really a different player when he came to Anaheim. He didn't really bring that toughness, and he didn't really bring any offensive impact like he did in New York. So that's kind of why I gave him the C. I'm just kind of a little iffy on the player that he is. And I'm open to keeping him on the team if he kind of steps up. He was the captain in New York. So it's nice to have, you've got Gudis, who kind of brings that captain aspect. But if Trouba can also bring it, and we can kind of integrate that we're not here to have, not that we're not here to have fun, but we're not here to have fun. We want to win games. Like, we're at the stage that we need to start winning these games, and we got to start cutting crap out. So I'm hoping that Trouba can really step up and be a good veteran presence on our D line for our younger guys that are going to be moving up, that they're good leaders for them.
Yeah. Doug?
A lot of what Colby and Kyle said, I echo. I was very excited. Like Kyle, I was very excited to have him join the team. Actually, I thought that was a good fit for the leadership and the role that he could play. And like Colby, I was like, hot damn, we got a guy that's going to bring the pain on the back end between him and Gudis. It's going to be thunder and lightning with these two dudes out there all the time. And we didn't see it. And I didn't see I think he's a little bit neutered from the suspensions over the years. He keeps that in check. To his credit, you got to learn how to play within the rules and stay on your ice. You got to be available for your team. So the biggest value, I think, is one, his leadership, his calmness back there. I was impressed overall with his defensive game. I thought he would be a real physical threat, but there would be defensive liabilities. It was the opposite. He was a defensive player that lacked the physicality I was expecting. So, but I think his greatest value going forward, if Gudas stays on this team, again, training camp, I can't wait to be there because him teaching Stan Solberg how to play in the NHL and how to toe that line between being physical and being suspended is invaluable. Those two guys, I just want to see them off in the corner teaching how to close gaps, how to hit, when to go for the big hit, and when to play positionally, and teach Solberg to be the best version of himself, because that's exactly what he can be, is an offensive version of Jacob Trouba. And if he can, I hope the Ducks retain Trouba specifically for Solberg's development. I think he would be invaluable to him next season as a guy to talk to on the bench and practice on the plains all season long about, you've been doing this for a long time. How do I do this? How do I do that? When do I do this? So I gave him a B-. I hope he's still here next year. And I hope he's the veteran on this defense next season, because they've got so much youth. I think he's the one guy that can be the veteran presence.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys all took the words right out of my mouth. So I'm gonna just give my grade and then show what the fans said. So
You got to go first more, Cody. You gotta
I
go
know.
first
Yeah.
more.
But honestly, our fans are probably tired of me talking, so it's nice hearing other people talk. So I'll go first on the next one. How about that? Or I'll think about it. I gave Trouba a B just because I liked what he brought when he came here. I feel like he had more of an offensive game when he came here, because he was shooting, and his shooting was actually leading to some chances for tips or deflections. So I did like that, and the shot blocking is what really helped as well. And like I said, I felt like he was not as a defensive. What's the word? He wasn't bad on defense as someone else that we're going to talk about pretty soon, that plays the same right-handed side defense. So I do like that. And I do like that he already has that leadership. He's been in the playoffs with, Winnipeg and New York. So he does have all those traits too. So I do like that. So that's why I gave Trouba a B. Here is what our fans gave.
Did you see the chat?
At least Gary's not talking. Thank you, Adam. He texted me. He's like, "I'm here to cause chaos." I'm like, "I'm not shocked." Here's what our fans voted for, or gave Trouba: 2 for an A, 36 people for a B, 21 for C, and 7 Ds, and no Fs.
Hey.
Yeah, no Fs. All right, next up,
Rangers' evaluation of him would be completely opposite.
Yeah,
Yes.
He was
exactly.
their Cam Fowler.
Yeah, pretty much.
Literally.
All right, I'll go first on the next one. All right, Drew Hellison. All right, I know he didn't play a full season with us, but I did like the way he looked when he first came up. I was like, wow, he did not look like how he did in the AHL or even in training camp, because he did not have a good training camp at all. So I was really happy the way he looked when he first came up. But then towards the last, I want to say 10 games or so, he just looked like he was just there. He wasn't making the same plays as he was before. So if I had to grade Hellison, I would give him a C minus. C minus, just because I was expecting him to be what he came out, and he had the hopes, but then he just completely lost it after that. So I'd give Hellison a C minus. Doug, why don't you go next?
I was pretty impressed with Hellison all season, and he's one of those guys that when you go into the last year, if you go a year from back 12 months, and you look at the Ducks' potential defense, I think you would list a lot of names before you got to Hellison as a guy that was going to play 56 plus games.
True.
And he reminds me of the adage of, it doesn't matter where you got drafted or anything. If you're on the team and you go into training camp, and again, why we're looking forward to it, is you kind of control your own fate. Force them to take you off the ice. Don't give them a reason to take you off the ice. And he kept earning time and kept proving that he was worth keeping in that top six as NHL defenseman. I was very impressed with his game. I think it was his first full NHL season. I think now he goes into the gym. He knows what to expect physically. He's going to come back stronger next year, but it is going to be a battle for minutes on that defense. And if he can go into this camp with the same mindset of force them to take you off the ice, don't give them a reason to, I think he could be right back out there. I gave him a B+. I was very impressed with Drew's game this past year.
Yeah. Colby?
I may have graded him harshly. I gave him a C just because I was expecting a lot more from him, which, maybe I shouldn't have. But he's the prospect that we got out of that Josh Manson trade. And so there's kind of a little bit of weight to it, especially when you're trading one of your good defenders for a draft pick. You want that draft pick to be good. So I don't know. His season, he looked really good at the start. But like you were saying, Cody, towards the end, it was just kind of what value is he really bringing to the blue line right now?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I'm just iffy about him right now. I'm hoping, I know I keep saying it, but I'm hoping he takes the next step next season to really become that better player and really fight for that fight for the starting spot that I'm like, okay, I was totally wrong about him, which we'll get to another player that I've been switched on about. So, yeah.
All right, Kyle.
So it looks like it's the bottom versus the top here on the screen because I also gave him a B+. I felt like he was completely an unexpected bright light on the blue line for Anaheim. I felt like he fit in really well on that bottom pairing for their defense when he was in the lineup. He showed up every night, played pretty well. I thought he did really well against some of those top lines and was producing pretty decent as a blue liner. And yeah, I think the potential ceiling for him is pretty high and definitely hard to look at when you get rid of Josh Manson for someone like that. But I'm intrigued to see what the fan result was because it seemed like he kind of became a fan favorite. I noticed a lot more hype around him around the Honda Center, a little bit more. There's some Hellison jerseys getting sold out there. So I would really like to see where he goes as a Duck and then also just kind of see how the fans reacted to him because I thought he was pretty decent.
Well, Kyle, your wish is my demand. Here you
Yeah,
go. I know. 2 people gave him an A, 29 a B, 28 a C, and 7 Ds. So there
Drew
you go.
Hellison is the NHL equivalent of the $5 you find in the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn since last year. It's just found money. It's like unexpectedly surprised, like, hey, it's not $5 isn't enough to do anything with, but you're still happy to have it, and it's a pleasant surprise. And that's how I look at Drew Hellison.
Yeah. So the next up is our captain, Radko Gudas. Is this the person you were talking about, Colby?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
Well, I
All
mean,
right,
kind of. When we first got him that first season, I'm like, man, this is our guy. He brings the grit. He's doing everything for us on the ice, off the ice. And when he got the captain, I'm like, fantastic. Like, this is great. He's going to be a good bridge captain until one of our younger guys is ready to step up for it. And then this season happens, and I'm like, wow, was I thinking straight when I was thinking about all this? Because he had a rough season for me personally that I'm just, what grade did I give him? I gave him a C+, so I was being generous. But man, it was definitely rough for me. And maybe it was just my eye test, but there's times I'm like, why are you throwing a hip check and you miss completely? And they score. And I'm like, dude, this is awful. So I don't know. I won't be sad if after his contract is up, he's gone, because I think his time here, it's run its course. But I don't know. I'm not going to bash him like I would some other players about it, just because I think he's in a bridge spot with us. He's just helping us get over the gap, and once we're in that better place, he'll be gone. So I'm choosing to just look the other way when I see him on the ice.
Speaking of looking the other way, every time I felt like he was playing defense, he was looking the other way on the player he was defending.
Yeah.
Like, I believe, Kyle, I think you were on when we played Toronto, and he went for a hip check in open ice against William Nylander.
Yeah, that was
and he was
rough.
nowhere near it. I'm like, why did you think that was the best way to defend that? And they scored, and I was just like, I was watching. I'm like, I had to watch the replay. I'm like, did Gudis really go for a hip check right in front of the goal like that? Yeah, I was like, I was like, what are you thinking? And there was just a lot of times where, like, the first season, like, I was excited to have him. I thought he was one of our best defensemen last year, but this year he was not even close to that. And I think his stats were only good because of another player that we're going to talk about later. I think he saved Gudis more than anything. So I gave Gudis the grade that for the position he plays, a D.
Dang.
So, yeah. All right, Kyle?
Well, I definitely am not giving him a D, but I try to not let recency bias like cut into my grade for him, because this is a player that, again, I was ready to rip him apart, but then I went and looked at his numbers, and they were actually pretty decent. And he led the team in hits, which you obviously want from a guy like Gudis. And I think when it came to fitting his role, he played extremely well. He came through, and I mean, the end of the season, I don't know. There's still no solid answer on what's going on, if he was injured or not, or if he's getting surgery. Everyone in Czechia and their mother says that he's getting surgery. The Ducks are adamant that he's fine. So I could see if there was an injury and he's trying to protect that part of his body, and that's why he kind of made some of the more awful hits. He did just, I don't know, something about the end of the season, he started to go downhill, but then he'd have his good moments. And so I try to compare him for the entire year. I think he was one of the more solid defensemen that we did have. So that's why I give him the B-. And we'll see how things go with him being around next year, if he'll be around or not. But with him writing a book, I feel like that's him kind of sailing into the wind. But with 1 year left, wouldn't mind having him just to do that transition next year.
Yeah. Doug?
Well, he's the captain, and I think it's nice that he wore his grade on his chest all season. So he's a C- for me. The double hip check was a highlight of the year, right? You get 2 for 1. But I'm a big DC Comics fan, and he's the Two-Face to me, and it's in both ways. The Two-Face coin is Fowler. A lot of Ducks fans, I should say, would ignore Fowler's positive plays and focus on his negative. And Gudis is the opposite. They'll excuse his bad plays because they like the physical presence and they like him. I did not like his game at all this year. And a proof that stats are liars is that he was a +4. My God, if that guy is a positive player, then I don't know what plus-minus indicates, because he looked terrible out there for a majority of the year. Especially his one thing that he's supposed to do well is play defense, and that was his weakest part by far, and I thought. So I was not impressed with him this past season. I hope he is not on the team next year, because there are 6 defensemen I think are better that deserve more minutes than him. But he does have that 1 year left. I hope they can find a way to get him traded or off the books somehow this summer. The conflict between his surgery and not surgery is that it is a jaw surgery, and they have not yet gotten through his beard to get to his jaw surgery. So that's the problem. He's scheduled for it, but they cannot get through it. It grows back too fast. It's too thick. It's broken every blade they've tried.
No, the Santa Claus. The Santa Claus.
Yeah, we've been saying for years on the Puck podcast that if you're good enough to play, you're good enough to be held accountable for your play. And if he was injured, I don't really care, because he was on the ice, and you got to perform when you're on the ice. And if you're that hurt that it's going to make you look that bad, get off the ice and let's bring up Tristan Luneau. Let's give more minutes to Oliver Shillington or Ian Moore, anybody else. But I was not impressed with him at all this past year, and it's a C- for me.
So we have a couple comments on YouTube as well. Adam says, I love Gudis, but I'll bash him. My captain gets a D- from me. I can't give him an F because he didn't completely fail at his position. And my mom said he was a better salesman at the NHL shop, which he was. He did do a better job at the salesman, a lot better than Strome did. So I will give him that. Here's what our fans gave Gudis. 2 people gave him an A. 6 people gave him a B. 13 a C. 31 D, and 14 Fs.
I mean, maybe I gave him the better grade because I have shared a couple pictures of beer with him. Not gonna share where that location was, but it was post game.
Sick invite.
Yeah, well, it was. I did not expect him. The place I was at, I was not expecting him and Bieksa and Emerson Edom to walk in, but I had to buy him a picture and say hi because I mean, when those guys walk in, obviously you do that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a place where you're like, what am I actually seeing this right now?
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got the team DJ himself, Brian Dumoulin.
Woo-woo.
Yep. Kyle, why don't you lead us off on this?
Well, you brought up exactly why I gave him an A-, B+. He's right on the tier there. The DJ bit got him the higher grade, but when it came to his defense, I thought he was one of the more solid defensemen that we had throughout the season. It was very unfortunate that he had to go at the trade deadline. I think we all kind of knew it was coming, and I hated the way that it was sold that like he had to go so that Zellweger and Minchikov could get minutes. I'm like, you could just give Zellweger and Minchikov minutes because they didn't even fit the role that he was playing. They brought Trouba in. So like, I don't know. It was a very weird way of selling, getting rid of one of the best defensemen we had in the season. I loved his energy. I loved the way he played. He always showed up kind of like the Terry on the back end where he always did the little things right. So yeah, B+, A- for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I thought he was very responsible in the back end. Like, he didn't really make that many mistakes, even though a lot of our defensemen would. That's where they would turn over Gudis, right there in our defensive end, and he really played had the possession of the puck really well for a defenseman back there. Like, you could tell, like, he was never like, oh crap. He was like, no, I'm gonna just turn. No, okay, I don't have that. Like, you could just tell he looked comfortable out there. So I gave Dumoulin a B for this year. I like the way he played. Like I said, it just sucked for the position for Dumoulin just because we had so many young people that we wanted to bring up, and it was either sit Zellweger, who sat out 90% of the time, or sit Minchikov, and we're like, no, we need to play both. And Dumoulin was just the odd man out pretty much, where it should have been someone else. But yeah. Doug, what do you think?
I gave him a B. I was pleasantly surprised with Dumoulin this past year because I didn't have high expectations for him. I knew he would be good defensively, and he was, but the offense was more productive than I thought. He had as many points in 61 games as he had more points in 61 games than Lundestrom had all season. And that's not good because Lundestrom's a forward and was here all year. But I was impressed with his overall game. But when we started the season, I remember thinking it's just one too many with Fowler, Gudis, and him. That's one too many veterans because you have Zellweger, Minchikov, Helleson, and Lacombe. Obviously, somebody's got to sit plus Luneau. It's too many veterans, and this is not the year for veterans on defense. So then they got rid of Fowler, but immediately brought in Trouba, and the problem was still there. So he had to go. I get that, but he was great while he was here, and appreciate the job he did defensively. I thought he was very solid. Would love to see him back at some point if they decide to add to a veteran presence, but I gave him a B for the year.
Yep. Colby?
Like you guys, I gave him a B. I'm originally from Seattle, so it's nice seeing a Kraken player come to the Duck that I kind of know about. And so when he got there, I was excited for it. And he wasn't flashy, but he did his job good. He was a nice, calm presence on the back end. So it was sad to see him go. I know he was very sad about it. He wanted to stay with us, and it sucked that we were in the position that we were, which, like you guys have mentioned, we could have easily have not been in that position. But in the off chance that we can bring him back, I would be happy if we could do that. But it's sad to see him go, but for his games that he was with us, he did very well. So can't complain about him.
Yep. And here's what our fans said about Dumoulin. 5 people gave him an A, 30 people gave him a B, 21 people gave him a C, 2 Ds, and 2 Fs. Man, the Kings' grades were not this weird last week. I can tell you that. Next up, we got Pavel Mintyukov. How why don't you lead us off?
So I love Pavel Mintyukov. He's one of my favorite of the younger defensemen coming up. I think he could be, if he really can. Now he's really got this pace, and I feel like if he really can hit the gym and start working on his bite, he could be the pit bull of the team. I compared him to, he has the potential to be like a Charlie McAvoy of this team, or a oh my gosh, I'll just keep moving on. I totally just drew a blank on the name I was thinking of. But yeah, I just think he's got this bite to his game. He can play physical. He can play offensively as well. And I give him a B- based off of the performance we saw. And it was unfortunate the way they treated him with the off and on with Zellweger. Made no sense to me. But having a full season of him next year, I think, is going to be excellent.
Yeah. Doug?
I gave him a C because I didn't like the regression, but I don't think it was all his fault. I think Cronin, much like Zegras, was in his ear telling him defense first, second, third, and that's not his game. I think you could just see a hesitation, it seemed like, this past season with him and Zellweger to join the rush and to be creative offensively, to pinch. They erred on the side of caution too often, and that leads to, lack of possession, and that's not their game. So I expect him to be much better next season under Coach Q. I think he's going to be one of those guys that takes off. And I do wonder, though, I'm not a big Cronin fan of how he used the players, but I wonder if Verbeek didn't have a role in that as well, because of the way we saw them throttle Carlson in his first year, where we're going to have scheduled days off and make sure these are not the biggest guys. They're still young. Was that part of an organizational direction and that's why we started the season with 3 veteran defensemen, is because they wanted to make sure these guys are not playing every single night to keep them physically healthy. I hope that's not the case, because we need him and Zellweger need to be on the ice every game they're healthy enough to play from now on. And the potential for Mintyukov is through the roof. You see that excitement in his game when he gets an opportunity in the offensive zone and the creativity. And I really expect the power play to be a lot better with him as a part of it next season than we did this past season. So I gave him a C because I didn't like his overall game, but I do think that had to do more with coaching and organizationally than himself making those decisions.
Yeah, no, I agree. He definitely did take a step back this last season. Agreed. I gave him a C as well. I felt like there could have been a little bit more offensively from him, but also, like I said, the coaching did not help. Because sometimes you just can't get into a groove when you're on and off the ice like he was to start. He was playing. You could tell he was a little bit more comfortable towards the end, but like I said, I don't. But like I said, he struggled still, but I did like the way he played towards the end. So that's why I kept him at a C. Colby?
Like you guys have said, he's kind of in the B- C+, whatever the teacher wants, they'll give him category for me, just because he took strides defensively. and he showed a lot of promise. So I'm very hyped to see what he's going to grow into. He didn't have a ton of offense growth this year, but he did a lot of the dirty work for the team, which is always good to see. But like you guys have said, I think it just ties into him sitting out 5, playing 2, sitting out again. And so that sucks as a player to have to go through that. And then your coach is telling you, hey, well, you're going to grow better by watching. That it's not always the case. And that it frustrates me to hear Cronin in the post-game interviews talk about that. So I love Minty. I'm excited to see what he's going to grow into.
Yeah.
With how much hockey I've watched, I should be Connor McDavid with that logic.
For Pavel, we got 6 A's, 20. So was it 26? 26
Yeah.
B's, 30 C's, and 4 D's. At least there's no F's.
Yeah.
All
Always
right,
good.
next up we got Olin Zellweger. Doug, why don't you start us off on this one?
I mean, you can just run back everything I said about Pavel Mintyukov. It's exactly the same problem here. A little bit of a step back, I thought, from his creativity and offensive production than I expected. But also, I think for both of them, again, I'm not an analytics guy, but I am more of a psychology kind of person towards the game and how players, the mentality of the game. Confidence is a big thing, and I think the opposite is true. When you're fearing being benched, it affects the way you play. And I think both of those guys were like, I can't make a mistake to give Cronin a reason to bench me the next night. So they both held back. And I think if Coach Q tells both of these guys, you don't have to worry about being benched, you're in the lineup every game you're healthy enough to play, that's going to free these guys up to have more confidence out on the ice, and we're going to see the production start going. So for both Zellweger and Mintyukov, I gave them a C because I thought they were both the exact same position this past season of fearing retribution from their coach should they have a bad shift, a bad game, and that affected their overall game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I felt like Zellweger's game, he struggled at sometimes, but like I thought he would have struggled a lot more with all that time he was missing, getting sat out because of the log jam and everything like that. But I feel like once he finally was playing every game and everything, he was starting to look back to his old self, but not really at the same time. So I'd give him like a B- for that for the season. It just sucks like with the whole log jam and Cronin as the coach, what killed us. So Colby, what do you got?
Basically the same thing as you guys and the same thing I said for Minty. I gave him a B-. He's kind of in that same area for me. I love what I'm seeing. It sucks that he was benched. I'm hoping that next season he's going to grow more.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Kyle?
I'm just going to say B- and ditto for sake of time because I'm on the same boat.
Okay. All right. And here's what our fans had to say for Zellweger. 13 A's, 40 B's, 12 C's, and 1 D.
Dang.
All right. Next up, our last defenseman, Jackson Lacombe. Colby, lead us off on this one.
I don't know if anyone else was in this same boat, but the first season that he played, I was very skeptical of him. I was worried about what he was going to turn into. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe we should just drop this kid to the goals, let him develop. But I don't know what he did in the offseason that made him. I don't even know if it's arguably. I think he was our best defender all season. He really showed up, put in the work. What are my notes? He played over 22 minutes a night, solid, 43 points. He was a beast. He handled all of the situations extremely well. Power play, penalty kill, everything. He was our most reliable defender.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I was, before the season, thinking, why don't we just trade him for something? I was on that same boat as you, Colby. I really was. I'm glad we didn't trade him. And he was by far our best defenseman, and he had all those points even with Radko Gudas as his partner. So, like I said, he really helped, I think, Gudis's game, because all I can tell you is I think Lacombe had to have been taking Advil after every game for carrying Gudis on his back.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I gave Lacombe an A, and that was one of the easiest A's I think I've had to give so far.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Well, like you said, Lacombe starts with an L, so does lidocaine patch, and he was definitely using those with that back pain from carrying the captain. But one of my favorite players, completely unexpected. I think it kind of goes to show just how different this league is when it comes to looking at defensemen versus forwards. Like, I totally forgot that him and Zegras were drafted the same year, and it's like just now Lacombe has taken this spark, and he was his second season technically, at least full season, and to have the breakout that he had this year, I thought was awesome. And then to hear from Pat Verbeek that he sees another level to his game, like, we definitely have a Norris candidate potentially on this with Jackson Lacombe. And you saw it every night with his ability to just angle people off, take the puck off. And he never seemed like, he kind of reminds me of Scott Niedermayer, speaking of former Ducks, where he never looks panicked or never looks like he's even working out. Like, he's just so calm and collected back there. And then he's a one-man breakout, can get the puck up, he can join the rush. He's everything you want in your defense. And if this is just a preview of what we're going to get out of Jackson Lacombe, it's going to be amazing. So I gave him an A.
Yep. All right. And we all graded on this one, correct?
No, I've
Or-
not, but
but-
it's my first A of the entire show so far, and he's an A minus. He was. How do you not love what you saw from Jackson Lacombe? And not only, you mentioned kind of a potential Norris Trophy candidate, he was 23rd in the entire NHL in points for defensemen on a team that had trouble scoring. My only concern is that kind of the opposite of what we've talked about with a lot of other guys is, was this a Cronin guy? Was this a guy that actually thrived in that system and responded to that coaching? And will he respond as well? We expect a lot of players to take off offensively because of Coach Q. Could he be the opposite, where he doesn't like that and he liked the structure and the game that Cronin was preaching? So that's my only concern, but it's a very small one, because everything we've seen from the last 2 years, this was for years we had the Ducks with all these defensive prospects. We had Drysdale, Minchikov, Zellweger, Leno. We're like, man, the defense is going to be great. And we forgot about Jackson Lacombe, who was a second-round pick. This is not a low pick that was a chance. It was basically a fringe first-round pick that the Ducks got. He's proven to be the best of the group so far. And yes, he's older, and yes, he's developed, but that's a guy that I am very comfortable having as my top pairing. I think he's one of the best-kept secrets defensively in the entire league. An A- only because I'd like to see more from him in special teams, which I think he has in him. And hopefully we see that coming in the season, but absolutely loved his game.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Here's what our fans had to grade for Lacombe. 60 people gave him an A, 5 people gave him a B, and we had 1 C.
They probably
right,
gave
that
the
is-
other guy an A.
Yeah. All right, so that was our last offensive. So let's move on to the goalies. I know the first two are going to be pretty. Hopefully, let's move them pretty quick. I say for the first two, we just give grades because they barely played. Ville Husso, Colby, what do you got?
I give him an A. I loved him.
All right, short and sweet. All right, Doug.
I gave him a B+, and I hope he's our backup next year.
Yeah, I agreed. Kyle.
Yeah, A/passing, because he didn't really have much, but when he did show up, he showed up, and it would be stupid for the Ducks to not sign him as a UFA.
No, I agreed 100% with all of you. I give him a B+, A-, just because, like I said, he came in and did what he needed to do as a backup role. So here's what our fans gave: 6 A's, 31 B's, 17 C's, 9 D's, 3 F's. And we have the Ducks legend himself next, James Reimer.
My grade on
Colby?
this,
Or Kyle, go. Yeah, go ahead,
I was
Kyle.
gonna say my grade on this is who?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's good. Yeah, we're gonna say incomplete. Doug.
I had a D because I saw him. They obviously claimed him from Buffalo for the season, so I get that he's not. He never even got Ducks pads, But I'm a big fan of the former Ducks that were here briefly, and one of the guys that I'm personally friends with is Jason LaBarbera, and he was here for five games. And I've got his game used glove and a jersey, and
Wow.
I like wearing that. And I remember a guy asked me, are you related to him? That's kind of how I feel if you're a fan of James Reimer. Are you related to the guy because he was here so briefly? But I gave him a D because when he did play, he did not do well. Like the exact opposite of Husso. Husso took advantage of his limited opportunities. Reimer sucked, and so I was not sad to see him go.
Yeah, I gave him a D because nope, he didn't have any of the Ducks colors. And you could tell he just didn't look comfortable. He was swimming a lot when he wasn't. So it's a D for me. Colby?
I give him an F. Just short and sweet. He played 2 games with us. There's not much to grade off of, but he let in 9 goals in those 2 games, and he had an .864 save percentage, which is awful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right. So where's there it is. James Reimer, no A's, 7 or 11 B's, 23 C's, 16 D's, and 16 F's.
B's.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Was he out paying for people's parking? I mean,
It was B. It was B for I'm in Buffalo now.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. Like, I don't get that at all. That makes no sense.
All right, next up, we got John Gibson. I'll go first on this one. Gibson, when he wasn't getting ran into by the other team, he was a great goalie this year. Like, he really stepped it up this year. I love the way he played. It was a lot different than the last couple seasons we've seen from Gibson. So I would give Gibson a B on this one. So, and here's what Adam said about Reimer: 9 goals in 2 games. Sounds like a beer league season. So, Doug, what do you got to say about Gibby?
Gibson is he's like your best friend in high school to me, and I'll explain that in a second because I thought he had a very good year when he was available, when he was playing. Again, has trouble staying healthy, unfortunately. Not entirely his fault. But when he does play, he was very good this past year. But the reason I say he's your best friend in high school is as much as I've enjoyed my time with him, it's time to move on. I'm ready to grow. And I'm moving on to college now. The Ducks are moving into a new era of their organization, hopefully. And I think it's time, finally, that this is the offseason that they trade John Gibson and find a new home for him, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's Detroit. I don't really care. I'm not happy to see him go. I'm not saying good riddance. He'll get a very warm welcome when he comes back. But it's time for him to find a new place to play in the NHL, in my opinion. And he goes out with a B-.
Yep. My mom put always a Gibby fan. All right, Colby, what about you?
I gave him a B-. I love Gibby. He's very talented. He only played 29 games for us. A good chunk of those he left early. So it's kind of hard to really grade him. When he's healthy, he's very solid. He still put up a .912 save percentage, which pretty solid, for a tender like him who, I mean, our goalie saved the Ducks this year. Realistically, like him, it's B-.
Okay.
All I can say.
Kyle?
I give him a B+, and yeah, health is always an issue, but he did have the better save percentage and goals against average when he was playing with that .912. So that's why I gave him the B+. But this is kind of a question for all of you. Do you think Gibson is at this place within the league where he's going to just kind of have to stick it out with Anaheim being a backup? And do you think teams are even going to want him? Because it feels like, I don't know, I kind of see him taking the Ryan Miller role now and just being the guy to help those stall and like support him when he's healthy, and that's why I think you got to have Billy Huso. But I just don't see many teams trying to get him with his history.
I could. I think he's getting paid too much for the Ryan Miller route, but I see what you're saying. But maybe after his contract's up, I could see him getting something like that, the Ryan Miller treatment. Adam put in the YouTube, Gibby gets a solid B plus compared to what he's been doing over the last couple seasons. Total improvement, and Cody knows how critical I am of goalies, and he is very critical of goalies. So, because he's a bad goalie himself, I believe. So,
well, Cody, I think your mom, I think everybody's mom is a fan of Gibby. He's a good-looking man. I think a lot of men are fans of Gibby. He's a good-looking man, but
Rocket.
To Kyle's point of, I don't think he's ready he's 31. He's too young for the Ryan Miller at that point to be the mentor. And I do think as we see the trend around the league where you don't need that star goalie to win a cup anymore. You just need a good goalie and potentially a tandem. I think you could see some teams with some interest. I do think the Ducks are going to have to retain salary on him, and that's fine. But he deserves a chance to start. He's too young to be a backup, but it's not his team anymore. It's not his future anymore. And I think he would welcome a trade. Once this contract is up, I can see him kind of settling into a mentor role, a tandem role, but I think he wants an opportunity, I think, to be a number one. And I think there are teams that are willing to give that to him.
yeah.
So what you're saying is we trade Gibson for Rickard Rakell.
Oh, jeez.
I never want Rickard Rakell on this team again. So no.
All right.
No.
Here's what our fans said about Gibby's season. We had 24 A's, 33 B's, 6 C's, and 3 D's. So, and let's move on to probably the main reason why we had the 21-point increase this season. Lukas Dostal. Kyle, why don't you start us off on this one?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to come out of the gate, just give him an F. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely an A for me. He was put into a position that he was not supposed to be put in this quickly with Gibson getting injured, and he stepped up to the task. He totally stood on his head for the Ducks. One of the most shot against goaltenders in the entire league, and he was like up in the top 8 for most of the season and kind of dipped there towards the end. But I mean, after an exhausting season like that, where you probably went into it mentally thinking you're going to be splitting the games, and then all of a sudden you're playing all of the games. And then definitely bringing Billy Huso helped there towards the end to just kind of give him some rest so he didn't get injured. Absolutely great player. He's definitely the franchise goalie now, and he's one of the coolest guys ever. He's so nice. I'm friends with Allergic Emma's mom. She was the 21st Duck this year, and Emma and Dostal were like best buddies, and he just took such good care of her. And literally every time there was a meet and greet, his first priority was to go say hi to her before anyone else and like actually spend time with her and talk to her. So he's just a great cat, and talk about good looking guys. That guy, he could have been a model if he wasn't a goaltender. So the Ducks are definitely lucky in that category.
Yeah. Doug?
Obviously an A. If you don't give him an A, then I don't know what you're doing. The performance he did this past season, and to Kyle's point, seeing the amount of shots he did, he played 9 games less than Connor Hellebuck this year and saw 39 less shots. So, I mean, the guy was absolutely under siege for most of the season. 8th most shots against in the entire league, despite only playing 54 games. Everybody else in his group, everybody else in the top 10 played more games than him. So he was fantastic, though, and gave the Ducks a chance every night, stole points. I do think it's one of those quirks, kind of like how the Ducks had 5 20-goal scorers, but nobody had more than 22. It's a quirk of the stats that the Ducks had 4 goalies play for them this season, and 3 of them, other than James Reimer, all had the exact same number of wins and losses. He was 23, 23, and 7. Gibson was 11, 11, and 2, and Huso was 1, 1, and 1. So none of them had a losing record. None of them had a winning record. all of them were 500. But Lukasz is just such a strength of this team going forward. And one thing the Ducks have always done is develop good goalies.
Yeah.
And that is no different this year. And that's why I'm willing to give Gibson a fresh start somewhere else. And I think if you could go into next year with Dostal and Husso as your tandem, and Husso has to sign, he has to want to sign here to be the backup. But if that is your tandem, I think the Ducks are very comfortable with that.
Yeah. Colby?
Yeah, I mean, I gave him an A, just like everyone else. And I basically everything I have, you guys have already said. I mean, he's a very solid tender. He kept us in games we had no business of being in. I mean, you can't ask for really a better goalie that's that young, that you can develop so well, and he can lead us to so much.
Yeah. No, he's an A from me, and I think we all added someone else to our enemy list after this because someone gave Dostal a D.
Oh my gosh.
Find him,
Right?
take him out back.
Get the analytics.
So, yeah, it was pretty obvious A's across the board, 61 A's, 4 B's, and the lone person that gave Dostal a D. I hope it was D for Dostal, but I hope that's
Right.
the only reason. His last name has a D. I'll give him a D.
They went to a game, and it was the one game he lost.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got assistant coach Peter Budaj, and I believe he was the goaltender coach. Let's see. I mean, I say we all give him a B, because I mean, think of how well our goalies played this season, especially in his first season as a goalie coach. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say. I'm just trying to help save a little bit of time for us. If you guys have anything different, speak. Go for it.
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah.
A plus. His
Coming in for a
job,
first year.
Amazing. The Ducks goaltending from top to bottom was exceptional. He deserves a big part of that, and yeah, A plus from him.
Here's what Adam said: whoever gave him a D needs to be old Yeller. All right, Colby, A plus from you for Budaj.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I'm good with that. Next up, we have assistant coach Tim Army.
All right, I'll go first on this one. Tim Army could walk in here right now and punch me in the face, and I would have no idea who he is. So
yeah,
absolute incomplete. I don't know what he did on this team. I don't know what he did as a coach, but I had to look him up. I'm like, he was an assistant coach this past year? Yes. I have no idea what he did, so incomplete.
Yeah.
Adam also said this for Budaj. He gets an A plus because of Gibby's improvement. So, so does anyone else want to give a grade, or just all incomplete for Tim Army?
Yeah, I looked him up and it just says assistant coach. I don't even know what his specialty was or what he was, if he was just like a skills guy or what, but
so the next 3 are going to be really fun for all of us. Let's try to keep it short and sweet because we are really going over time on this. So we have assistant coach Brent Thompson. Kyle?
F.
Yeah, okay.
F.
Yeah.
Special teams was god awful. No improvement, no change, and that goes to Rich Clune as well. Just, I have no idea what they were smoking or what they were doing, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, and that was our special teams this year. I don't think there was a change between penalty or power play group 1 and power play group 2. They were the same method, same setup. Not a single person going to the front of the net. Just hit the one-timer. Terrible.
Yeah.
Was Brent Thompson the power play? I think he was.
No, he was the penalty kill. He was
penalty kill and defense. So I gave him a B minus because I thought the defense was the strength of the Ducks, if anything, and the development of Lacombe and what we saw from the defense overall, I was impressed with that. So if that was his role, I think he did it well. And he was the only coach that was doing his role well, in my opinion.
Colby?
I gave him a C plus. I thought he did a pretty decent job at revamping the penalty kill approach, but the impact of it, I still haven't really fully assessed to fully judge about if the growth of it is that good. So it's kind of the middle ground for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sad if he wasn't back.
Oh,
which
he's already
he's not
fired.
back.
Yeah, he's
not
gone.
coming back. Yeah, he's gone.
Thank
He
you.
gone.
So Brent Thompson, 1A, 8 Bs, 10 or is it 19 Cs, 18 Ds, and 20 Fs. Yeah, I gave him a C as well. Nothing. You guys all said what I wanted to say. Next up is another coach that also got fired, Rich Clune. All right, Colby, you obviously got something to say. Go for it.
F across the board for everything about Rich Clune. That's man.
Not even his suits or the way he does his hair.
The
Even
way
his
he
haircut.
looks, I'll give him a B. You know, he's a handsome looking guy, but that doesn't excuse the pure terror that he was.
All right, Doug.
F for fire him into the sun.
All right.
That was awful. I was optimistic when they hired him because obviously the power play 2 years ago was a disaster. They brought in a new guy. I'm like, oh, we got a new approach. It was worse. And to Kyle's point, nothing ever changed. It's like to the point that if the Ducks got a penalty, if they drew a penalty, I was like, can we decline that and go 4-on-4 when we take a penalty and just offset it? Because this is an absolute waste of 2 minutes for everybody involved. Terrible job by Rich Clune.
Kyle.
I mean, I'd kind of combine the two together because I just picture them both as the special teams guys, and the penalty kill wasn't good, and the power play was even worse. So, F-.
Yeah, it's a quadruple F- from me. So, here's what Rich Clune got. He got 1A. It's nice to know his wife watches the show. 3 Bs, 13 Cs, 14 Ds, and 35 Fs. And
I mean,
Good
look, the A is we can all laugh off one person clicking just to be funny.
Yeah.
But the B's and C's,
Yeah,
what are
little
we?
questionable.
There's nothing good about this man's performance
You watch
at
the
all.
same power play.
yeah. Oh, Zegras on the power play. Let's give him a B and a C because he put Zegras out there. Good for you. Everyone knows to do that. All right. Since Doug, you've brought up probably the coaching aspect of all the grades the most, I'm going to give you the first shot at Greg Cronin.
I'm going to give him a D- because at least he didn't abuse the players physically. To my knowledge, he didn't violate their privacy like Mike Babcock. He didn't cover up sexual assault. There are things he could have done worse, but he was atrocious. And I've never wanted a Ducks coach fired more than I did this past season. I hated his approach to this team. I hated the way he put players in a position to not only not succeed, but to struggle, I thought. And there was no joy. For years under Bob Murray, I constantly questioned, what are the Ducks trying to be? If they are playing an ideal game, what are the Ducks? And he was always reacting to what was happening around the league. Oh, we need to be faster. We need to be bigger. We need to do this. What does a Greg Cronin team look like? And if you have an AHL coach and an NHL job, the guy was overmatched on a nightly basis. This is not a development league. These are grown men. You don't need to punish them. You don't need to develop their game. No, you need to try and win games. And he showed no ability. And he just kept seeing, and everybody's like, oh, he took a softer approach this year. He wasn't as much of a hard ass. Good for him, I guess, but the results are terrible.
Yeah.
Every point the Ducks got in the standings was because of the players, not because of Cronin. He was terrible. And I was so happy when they fired him, and hiring Coach Quenneville has completely reversed my outlook for next season. If Cronin came back, I was really like, do I even want to watch the games? Because it's going to be the same. I can't wait to watch the games with Quenneville. So I give him a D- only because he wasn't physically or emotionally manipulative. But beyond that, he was absolutely the worst coach in the NHL for the last 2 seasons. And it started off, we talked about Zegras and how his skill, the first practice they had was no sticks. The Zegras shouldn't even be on the ice then. That's not what am I doing out here, coach? I'm here to create offense. Have you seen the plays I've made? I need a stick in my hands. No, you're going to win the battle. Okay, you got it, buddy. So I think the players are so happy he's gone. I know I am.
Yeah.
And D-.
Yeah. Colby?
You know, I tried to be positive with mine that I'm like, I gave him a C plus, which may be really high because I mean, I was on the Fire Cronin train in November. A month into the season, I'm like, all right, we've already had a year of this guy. We're still doing the same crappy plays. We're still doing everything, and we're losing games. Like, something has to change. By December, nothing changed. I'm like, okay, surely Four Nations will be gone. Nope. So now he's finally gone. And I'm like, yes, we improved. I don't want to give him the credit and say he is the reason why we improved because he's not. You know, a lot of the things that happened were our players. Everything that happened was our players, really. You look at our goaltending, they saved us so many times, like we mentioned. But I don't know. Our teams improved with our performance, but we fell short. But this was the closest we've been to the playoffs in so long that it's giving me hope that the team is heading in the right direction, whether that's because of Cronin or the players. So I tried to find the middle ground of it.
Yeah. Kyle?
I'm kind of on the fence here because I gave him a C, but I kind of want to give him lower just with thinking about it. And what I'm thinking about right now is you kind of brought it up, Doug, but I remember going to last year, the first day of training camp, like his first season as a coach. And I was kind of bullish on him getting a Boston guy out here. And his talk was all talk apparently, but he pumped us up. Go to the on ice session, and the first drill, they're all skating around with no stick, battling for the puck. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. I guess just kind of like get them warmed up or something.
Playing soccer.
The year goes by. We had the year we had last year, like the 23-24 season. Then I come to the opening day of training camp this year, and what's the first drill they're doing? Messing around with no stick, trying to battle and like doing it. And I'm like, what are we literally doing the same thing? So I was on the Fire Cronin train that day, and it just never came together. There were moments where I was like, maybe he's actually pretty brilliant because like we'd go on these road trips and play some decent teams, and the Ducks would look kind of mid, and then we'd come back and like dominate at home for a couple days against some pretty decent teams. So I'm like, maybe he like was like, hey, let's pay attention to what they're doing and then apply it to our game. But then it would fade away. So I don't know. C minus, D, what, like didn't show up. Just, it's hard. There was improvement, but yeah, it's not really his doing as much as he tries to take credit now in post-season interviews. And apparently he said he was an analytics guy. And I think it's kind of ironic that him and Quenneville got together and had lunch in Florida, and he asked him for advice and stuff. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, how that went. And now like that he got replaced by him, but yeah, just not it for me.
Yeah. It was a D for me. You guys pretty much said it all. And here's what I put. I had a little fun with the Cronin one. One person gave him a B. 8 people gave him a C, 13 Ds, 45 Fs, and we had 66 responses, and 65 of you put, woo, he's gone. It was funny because when I first made this was before he was fired, and I was put, fire him now, but then he got fired, so I had to change it to woo, he's gone. So I had a little fun with that one.
I mean, if you look at the stats that coaches impact, right? The Ducks were dead last in face-off winning percentage. They were dead last in power play. They were dead last in shots against per game, and they were 29th on the penalty kill. What did the Ducks do well last year? They got goaltending. It was players that did something well. The team didn't do a damn thing well. That man was incompetent. I mean, absolutely incompetent. We started every shift chasing the puck. We never had any answers on the penalty kill or power play. And the players, he choked the life out of them offensively. It's just, I'm telling you, the whole league is sleeping on the Ducks because of what Cronin did these last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ducks are going to blow people's minds next year.
Yep.
Everybody is going to have a better year offensively. And they're going to be like, where'd this come from? Because we had basically a throttle on the entire team these last 2 years.
Could you even remember a game where he shuffled lines mid-game?
No, that man, like Randy Carlisle drove me crazy with his constant writing notes, but at least Randy Carlisle was like, I had confidence in him as a coach. So, but he constantly was shuffling lines and but at least he's doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cronin was like, he took the approach, and I love the movie, but it felt like Hoosiers. My team's on the ice, and hey, we don't need a basketball. We're going to go around. I don't want anybody shooting a ball for the first 10 days of practice. Like, that's what this felt like, was like, these are NHL grown men. You're telling Brian Dumoulin to do this? Come on, man. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I don't think the players bought in. I obviously don't think they bought in. I don't think anybody was sad to see him go. And any improvement they had this year was purely by the players, because the stats were all just as bad as they were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just the goaltending was lights out. And that's why Peter Budaj, Dostal, and Gibson get great grades and everybody else does not. And the coaching staff, oh my goodness. I don't know that there's ever been, hyperbole is a thing, but I don't know that there's ever been a better coaching upgrade in the NHL history than going from Greg effing Cronin to Joel Quenneville in one off season. He's the best head coach in the NHL right now, is Joel Quenneville. He could be the winningest coach of all time by the time he retires. And Greg Cronin is the worst coach I've seen the Ducks ever have, and was by far the worst coach in the NHL these last 2 years.
I never thought I would miss Eakins.
Yeah,
100%. Look, Aikens was not the answer
Most
either, but he
monotone
was
guy
also
ever.
that guy was a Taco Bell chef. You give him crappy ingredients, of course the food's going to taste like crap. There was no talent on that team. Max Comtois was our best offensive player, for God's sake. He's not even in the league anymore.
he's playing roller.
Well, for
Yeah,
now,
so-
apparently there's talks about him coming back, but
Well, I'm sure he wants to come back. The 32 NHL GMs would have a different opinion. But this is Cronin. Thank God he's gone. He's never going to work in the NHL again. I cannot wait for next season. It's like I've been given the cure to a terminal disease. I really feel like I'm excited about the Ducks for the first time in years.
Cronin's disease.
Cronin's disease is cured, man. And I don't have to wonder what the hell's going on with that hairline anymore either.
Oh God.
Ugh.
I feel like he got a fresh cut like every day. It seemed like. I know,
And he got more orange every day.
Snip. Yeah. All right, we got one more grade to do. We're at 3 hours. This is the longest we've ever gone. General manager Pat Verbeek. How did he do this last season in your guys' eyes? Colby, start us off.
I originally gave him a B, but I'm really iffy about him. And I think he knows he's probably on the hot seat, depending on how this upcoming season goes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he says the same thing to us each offseason, and then we can't deliver on it. I was so bummed when we went to the migration event. He's like, we're going to go for a top six winger. We're going to go get our top six. Doesn't happen, which, I get it.
I'll admit, he did try at least.
He tried at least, which is good to know. And especially it's good to know that, Stammer and Marchessault went to a team that sucked and was worse than the Ducks. So
I'm glad it was Nashville.
Yeah. But I'm also filled with hope that I know he essentially has blank checks that he's going to be handing out to players this offseason, because the Samuelis want to win. The Ducks want to win. So I'm hoping that we make a big splash and Verbeek is able to bring us some players and hopefully some playoff wins. So he's sitting about like a C+, B- right now for me. Depending on how this upcoming season goes, can definitely change that.
Yeah. Doug?
I got him as a C, but I do have a question. At what point, we're saying the season evaluations, does that mean it ended at the end of the regular season? Or am I taking in the fact that he fired Cronin and hired Quenneville?
You can count that if you want.
If I count that, then it's a B+.
Yeah.
Because again, the greatest coaching upgrade in NHL history for my money. And the fact I disagree with Colby in the sense that I don't think he's on the hot seat at all. And I don't think he ever will be. The Samuelis don't fire people. Brian Burke would still be here if he wanted to be.
Oh yeah.
Bob Murray, if they hadn't had that hotline set up because of the Joel Quenneville situation and the whole thing in Chicago, the NHL set up a hotline. Hey, call us up if there's any problems. Immediately the phone rings and it's Ducks people saying, we got an alcoholic, an abusive alcoholic running the team here. Yeah. They do an investigation, they fire him. If they hadn't done that investigation, he would still be the Ducks GM. Yeah. I guarantee it. So they don't fire people. Verbeek's job is not at risk here. But the job he did, when you promise to the fans, we're going to go out and get a top 6 forward, we're going to get a top 4 defense, you're like, hot damn, you got to deliver on that. And if you don't, you got to come out and say why. And he never came up and followed up with here's what we tried to do. The biggest plus for the Ducks this offseason where it'll be different is that it is Quenneville. No player wanted to come and sign with Greg Cronin behind the bench. Players want to play for Quenneville. I firmly believe that around the league. So there are going to be guys that are free agents that will consider the Ducks because of their head coach where they wouldn't have in the past. And with a full pocketbook, with a head coach that has respect around the league, I do expect him to be more successful, but I still think he should go the trade route because that's a known quantity. You can control your results. If you're hoping for free agency, you're going to be bidding against a lot of other teams that have a lot of cap space and better recent results. So it's a less of a known commodity there, but I give him a B+ if we're counting the coaching, a C otherwise. The roster didn't improve much. I'm hopeful it will this coming season. But the coaching change alone, that he did not look at a 21-point improvement in the standings and say, we've got our staff. These guys did a great job, that he had the guts to fire him and be one of the first to do it so that he could get on the coaching carousel early and get the guy he wanted. I give him credit for that.
Yeah, agreed. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was planning on giving him like closer to like a D+, just because I didn't like how some of the trades he made and the timing of them. Like, one, I don't think the Trouba trade was really necessary at the time we did it, and then we take on the full $8 million and don't retain, or we don't get anything back for that. We give him a 4th round pick and back in Ninen, and we don't get anything back for taking the full 8 and after helping them out. Taking so long to trade Fowler and Dumoulin, even though I love Dumoulin when he was here, but he needed to be traded sooner. And I do like the return we got back from him because I didn't think we were going to get a prospect and a 2nd round pick for Dumoulin, to be honest. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt on that, and then plus the firing of Cronin and everything to get on it. I'll give him a C+. Just because I didn't like how the moves he made. He didn't do anything last offseason to really help with this season. So it's a C+ for me. Kyle?
I give him a C because kind of same reasons there. If we're counting up until the Cronin firing, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything bad, and he didn't do anything good. He literally just kind of sat there, and he's very much, well, I mean, he was raised in the Stevie Yzerman camp, and he's following pretty much like head to foot, like in suit with him, and not really talking, not really doing much. But there's a plan, but he's not going to tell you what the plan is. But there's a plan, and it's coming. But I think with the Quenneville thing, that's a big thing. But I'm really, really intrigued how this offseason is going to go and just how well he's going to pull the trigger, if he even is going to pull the trigger, because so far the sample size we have of him is he said he tried, but it just, there hasn't been any evidence of him actually trying to pull a trigger on anyone or making a big move.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing we can say for him is the Gauthier trade was genius.
Yes.
And taking advantage of that opportunity to get a stud player in a position you need for a guy that was expendable was a genius move. And so I'm optimistic that he will manage the defense well this offseason. But he needs to clear space, to me. Mm-hmm. I get that it's a balance, though, because I do think the Ducks want to push for the playoffs. So you don't want to go all young. But at the same time, these guys deserve minutes. So do you go with a defense that is Minchikov, Zellweger, Leno, Lacombe, Hellison, and Trouba, or a veteran? Or do you go with a little bit more veteran presence there? Which that's going to be a tough thing for him to decide. And then is now the time to bring up Beckett Seneca and let him develop in the NHL? How do you go and get the bottom six to make the top six better? You need that top six forward, but you also need bottom six forward. He's got a lot of work to do, but he's got a lot of cap space. I think there's players, I know Kyle's talked about it, and I'm a firm believer that they are going to go after Jonathan Taves. They're going to go after Patrick Kane. I would love to see them reunite on the Ducks under Quenneville and be the guys that are the mentors that can teach these young kids how to play Quenneville's system and what it takes to win in the NHL. They're going to listen to them. I'd love to see a reunion tour for Perry. If they can add those three veterans to the bottom six, that's going to go a long way to making the Ducks a stronger team from top to bottom and be good mentors on the ice. All the possibilities are there for Verbeek this summer. I don't want him to go out and just write blank checks to Mitch Marner as much as I'd love to have him. I'd rather have Robertson because that's a less cost and a younger player, and I think a better fit for this community. That's a guy that grew up here and is Asian like Paul Kariya was. So I think there's great opportunities this summer for Pat Verbeek, and I hope when we do this show next year, we're all giving him an A.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agreed. So here's what our fans gave for Pat Verbeek: 3 A's, 25 B's, 27 C's, 8 D's, and 3 F's. So, but that's all the grades we have now. I'm gonna bring my dad on if he's ready. Dad, are you there? I don't know if he's on or not, but
I'm on.
But oh, there you are.
I was muted, so you guys didn't hear anything in my background.
Well, you were off stage. We wouldn't hear from you anyways. But Doug, why don't you start us off? Where can our fans find you at?
I'm often at the store. I'm often in my backyard. I got.
You go to Ralph's or Pavilions?
I mix it up. You know, I go where the deals are. I look at the flyers in the mail, and I decide where I'm going to go that week. I like Costco, so keep an eye out for me there. No, I'm Puck Podcast and Puck Podcast wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube. We've been doing it we're coming up on our 20th season. And
Wow.
We've been doing a show every single week for over 19 years now. And it has been a labor of love, but I'm ready to enjoy Ducks hockey again. And I encourage everyone, I'll plug it for them. Check out the Locked On Anaheim Ducks every day because Kyle's doing a good job. We need to support each other, our community.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, and that's one of the things that bothered me when I used to do a Duck podcast, and I got a lot of negative feedback from various people. I'm not going to name names because it's not important, but to me, Ducks media needs to support each other. There's not a lot of us, and build each other up, not tear each other down, not try and be in comparison with each other or competition. There's enough minutes and enjoyment for everybody. So support each other, there's different roles for each person. Derek Lee does a fantastic job covering the team.
I love Derek
for the hockey news. If you're not following him as often as possible, you need to, and just support each other. So we all love this team. We all want them to win. We all hate the Kings. Sorry, Gary. We all want them to fail. So look, it is what it is. But Ducks community, like when you go to a game, you don't care what religion, race, or background the person next to you is. If they're wearing Ducks colors, you're going to high five them when they score. You're going to lament with them when they get scored upon. So take that approach with you online and don't be a jerk. Don't be a troll. We're all trying to support our team here. And if you got nothing good to say it out loud or just keep it to yourself and support each other. So all the guys at the different podcasts around, we talked about Felix and their podcast. Look, whether you disagree with somebody or not, and they certainly people disagree with me, we all want the Ducks to win. So support each other and let's build this team up because next season is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I really feel it. I really, really believe next season the Ducks are going to be a strong team that makes the playoffs and shocks this entire league.
Yeah. No, I listen to a bunch of different hockey podcasts. There's some people I agree with and some people I don't. But sometimes they say something like I agree with that, but like I said, we all support one team. Like Kyle in his first episode said, "Trade Zegras for God's sakes." I remember that, and I was like, "Wow, that's bold."
Trying to get some pieces.
But here we are. I don't hate him. He's been on the podcast. This is his second time now. So me and Kyle talk from time to time. So obviously, what he said, I didn't like. Oh, I can't stand this guy now. No, like we talk and stuff like that, and we share each other's opinions, just like you said, Doug. So I completely agree with that. So, Kyle, where can our fans find your podcast? I'll say it better that way.
Yeah. So you cannot find my podcast at the store because it's now on Amazon Fire TV. But we are the Locked On Podcast Network is all over everywhere you get podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, Audible, I'm pretty sure. YouTube's a big one. We're trying to get more subscribers there because it's where a lot of the youth is now and kind of the market's going towards. So check out Locked On Anaheim Ducks because there is an Oregon Ducks. So make sure you look up Locked On Anaheim Ducks on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then we're on all the socials now. I've got the Blue Sky, X or Twitter, if you want to call it that still, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. So we're kind of everywhere now and just trying to spread the love of Anaheim Ducks hockey. And my podcast is Monday through Friday, even in the off season, as hard as that is, 30-minute episodes. So check it out.
Yep. And Colby, where can our fans find you?
You can find me on X and Instagram under Anaheim Ducks memes. Not much going on right now though, since it's the off season, but I try to communicate with my followers. So stop by.
Yep. All right, and then you can find Royally Quack on all your social media accounts and on every single audio platform. Please subscribe, download, and rate us on all your podcast platforms. And follow us on YouTube and Twitch, and leave comments too, like Adam and my mom did, and my dad trying to correct my mom or Adam on how to spell my mom's name correctly on YouTube and everything. And don't forget to join our Discord where we can talk everything there and even have some fun discussions like Star Wars, because I see Boba Fett's jetpack in Kyle's background, and Colby, you have the Millennium Falcon next to you.
Yeah.
So I said we're big Star Wars fans over here too. Oh geez. Captain Rex. I love it.
Yeah.
I will say one other thing to encourage the fans out there is the Duck stream that the Ducks launched a couple years ago, the 24/7 audio network.
Yeah.
Not only give that a check if you haven't over on TuneIn, but pressure the Ducks to give more original content to that. This kind of show that we did right here should be on Duck stream.
Yeah.
They need more content in the off season to keep people engaged, because I check in on that every now and then, and it's just absolutely, repeats of interviews from long ago, which is fine, but more original content. So one, check out the Ducks stream on TuneIn if you haven't already. And two, contact the Ducks and encourage them to get some more original content on there, because
and
even
more
a show
hosts.
like this, more hosts and more engagement like this, more roundtables and less of the stuff they're doing. Yeah, Kyle's pointing to himself. He's available. No, we need you on Locked On, Kyle. It was silent for too long.
I can do both.
Me and Kyle could do it together.
Yeah, and I love the Ducks for changing to free media, because the making Ducks streams available for free and going to Victory Plus and making their games available for free. I appreciate the hell out of that. In an era where everything costs more, it is costing less to watch the Ducks, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's only two things I hated about the Victory Plus was the same 5 commercials, and you couldn't skip if you were behind, you couldn't at least skip ahead to at least catch up during the commercials. That's the only two things I couldn't stand.
Yeah, Victory Plus, I will say this, and I don't know if it's just me. I know you were mentioning Fire Plus there, Kyle. I'm a Roku guy. My fast forward button on that was like warp speed. You talk about the Millennium Falcon. My God, you hit that and it's suddenly like 18 minutes. Like, whoa, I just wanted to skip the commercials. I'm now in the next period.
Well, that's if you could even get the game to come up. There was a few games where I'd click the game and it would just like go back to the home screen of my TV. Like it would just
Yeah,
close the app, and I'm like, "What is going on?" Then I go online to my browser. Same thing. It would like just wouldn't load the. I'm like, "What is happening?"
I don't know if I got a good connection or what. I never had one issue with Victor.
I didn't have any issues with that
through
either.
Roku, so I don't know. But
I usually watched on Google Chrome or the Edge browser, but never had any issues.
yeah.
So, but
Let's
thank
go
you guys.
Ducks. Let's go
Thank you guys
Ducks,
for coming
boys.
on. We really appreciate it. I did not mean it for this to go over 3 hours like this, but I enjoyed every
You owe
second.
me a
of it.
sandwich.
All right. We'll meet up at Brewery X and I'll buy you a beer. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week. And let's go Ducks.
Let's go.
A father and son, a bond so strong, talking hockey all day long. Royally Quack, their podcast show, sharing stories, highs and lows from the